On your marks. Set.
And she's off at 105 years old, in a class all by herself, and with a fresh picked flower in her hair. Julia Hawkins was running for the record books at the Louisiana Senior Olympic Games.
Come on, Julia, you got it, you got it. Come on.
She is running 100 meters, a little bit more than a football field, and has to stay in that lane, despite not being able to see much more than about a foot in front of her because of her age. Miss Hawkins stays in race shape mostly by jogging a mile or two a day near her Baton Rouge home that she and her husband built together back in 1948. And that's where we first met her, the day before the race. Well, hello, Miss Julia.
Hello.
Nice to meet you. I'm David.
Well, David, we've been waiting a long time on you.
Well, have you ever wanted to be a world record holder?
Not particularly.
No. Are you impressed by it?
No, not particularly. I had too many other wonderful things before this. This is just a drop in the bucket.
She grew up in the 1920s when a train ticket cost about a nickel. What was the state of the world when you were born?
Much calmer, fewer buttons to push, and, but lots of books to read.
She became a teacher and fell in love with gardening. She shared that love for nature with a fellow student at LSU named Murray Free Hawkins Jr., or Buddy as they called him.
I met him the first day at LSU. I went home and wrote about him in my diary. He was so smart, so clever, and so fun. He had a good sense of humor, and he was vivacious and wonderful. We were married by telephone.
By telephone? At that time, Murray was at Pearl Harbor, serving in World War II. Together, they raised 4 children, and after 70 years of marriage, Murray died at the age of 95. Did you want to live to be this old?
I couldn't imagine being this old. Without him, it's not the same. It's not quite as wonderful.
What are your dreams?
I don't have a dream. I just want to go to sleep and let it end. That's what my husband did. We were sleeping together, and he sang love songs to me that night. Wonderful songs. So that's a wonderful way to go.
Well, until that happens, we are going to cheer you on.
Thank you.
Which takes us right back to that 100-meter run. On race day, among those cheering her on were 2 of her former students, 90-year-old Rosemary and Evelyn, who's 89. She finished in just under 1 minute, 3 seconds, setting a world record as the oldest American and the first woman to run 100 meters in her age group.
I'm so happy.
Now, you know, every winner deserves a press conference, and this one set her own rules.
Okay, 1 question apiece.
You want to do it again?
Yeah. Right now?
No. How about in 106? Do it again?
Maybe so. Who knows? See how I feel when I get up in the morning.
Deal.
We all know the name Rosa Parks, whose defiance on a Montgomery, Alabama bus became a turning point in the civil rights movement back in 1955. But chances are you may not have heard about this woman. Her name is Claudette Colvin. Most people don't know her story. As a teenager, she was arrested 9 months before Parks for the very same reason, refusing to give up her bus seat to a white person. Her story is a very important part of our civil rights history, and now there's a new development that you'll see only on CBS Mornings, and we love when this happens. Lead national correspondent, that's you, David Begnaud, has an interview that we will, and it's got a twist, as only you can do. I've been waiting for this all morning.
I can't wait for you to see this, and all of you. You don't hear about Claudette Colvin in the history books, but you should. She's now a great-grandmother, and for the past 66 years, she has lived with a criminal record. In what may be her final protest, she asked a judge in Alabama to clear her name by expunging her record, and the judge did it. This is her story, and as Gayle said, you do not want to miss the surprise at the end.
Needing assistance now.
It's very nice to meet you.
Claudette Colvin has spent most of her 82 years as a convicted juvenile delinquent who would go on to college, work as a nurse's aide, and raise 2 sons.
Do you think of yourself as an important figure in history?
No, I think of myself as a survival of the civil rights struggle.
Her place in the civil rights struggle began when she was 15 years old, at the back of a crowded Montgomery, Alabama bus after school with 3 friends.
I was sitting in the session that was allowed for colored people, and this white lady came. The bus driver demanded for the 4 seats.
And this is you and 3 others?
Students, yes.
So 3 of them got up?
Yes.
And you refused?
So I refused. Because this wasn't an elderly white lady, this was a young white lady.
You're sitting there, your classmates get up and move.
Yes.
What was going through your head as to why you refused to stand?
I said I could not move because history had me glued to the seat. And they said, "How is that?" I said, "Well, it felt as though Harriet Tubman hands were pushing me down on one shoulder, and Sojourner Truth's hand was pushing me down on the other shoulder."
Now, that happened 9 months before Rosa Parks was arrested for refusing to give up her seat on a Montgomery bus, overshadowing for decades what a teenager had also done.
And the traffic patrolman came to the rear of the bus and asked me why I wasn't sitting there. I told him I was sitting there because I paid my fare and it's my constitutional rights.
Now, watching this interview from a nearby room was Judge Calvin Williams. Today, he is the presiding judge of the Montgomery Family Court.
And then what happened?
Oh, lo and behold, 2 squad car patrolmen stopped and, cut the bus off. And they stopped, and we said, "Oh, my."
We invited the judge to listen in and hear Colvin's account of what the police did to her in 1955.
And he asked me why I wasn't sitting there. And I was even more defiant. And I said, "I paid my fare, and it's my constitutional rights." He said, "Constitutional rights?" And all I know. And they put me in the squad car, and they handcuffed me through the window.
Claudette Colvin was jailed, charged with disturbing the peace, breaking segregation law, and found guilty of assaulting police officers, clawing them with her fingernails.
They said I clawed the policeman and I kicked the police. I didn't do all of that.
Was it the one and only time in your life that you've gone to jail?
Yes.
At the time I represented Claudette Colvin, there was no Rosa Parks case.
As a young attorney, Fred Gray, later portrayed by Cuba Gooding Jr. in the film Selma, took up her case. That's before he went on to defend Rosa Parks. In his book, he pays tribute.
The whole history of the civil rights movement may have been different, but for Claudette.
At the age of 16, she made headlines again as one of 4 plaintiffs in the lawsuit that would end Alabama's bus segregation in the landmark Browder versus Gayle Supreme Court decision.
When you won in court,
Yes.
you could sit in the front row if you wanted.
Yes.
And did you?
Yes.
But the charge of assaulting police officers remained. Fast forward to today. When Judge Calvin Williams in Montgomery, Alabama read her appeal, he expunged her 66-year-old criminal record.
And I'm no longer a juvenile delinquent at 82.
She was not present when the judge ruled. She didn't know his name. She didn't even know what he looked like.
We have a surprise.
That was a surprise.
We have a surprise for you.
What is a surprise?
Someone would like to meet you.
Hello, Ms. Colvin. Judge Calvin Williams.
Wow, 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 wow.
Judge Calvin Williams.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, Lord. Oh, my goodness.
On behalf of myself and all of the judges of Montgomery, offer my apology for an injustice that was perpetrated upon you.
Wow, this is a surprise.
So you didn't know that the judge who did this was African American?
No, I'm so proud.
The judge wasn't even born when Miss Colvin refused to give up her seat on that bus.
When she did this in 1955, there were no African-American judges in Montgomery. She stood up for right, and now I'm the beneficiary and byproduct of that, and I could correct the wrong that was done to her.
Amen to that.
Amen to that.
Can I squeeze your hand?
Yes, ma'am, please do.
This morning, our lead national correspondent, that would be David Begnaud, introduces us to Gabrielle Perry. She's a Louisiana woman who was given a very unique opportunity. David, we've been waiting all morning for this story. Good morning to you.
Here we go. Good morning, my friend. Look, we all make mistakes, but not everyone gets someone who believes in them enough to take a risk and give them a second chance. That's what this story is about. So buckle up for a valuable life lesson and a surprise.
The life of Gabrielle Perry has benefited from second chances that all began when she was born and given up for adoption.
I am the birth child of a woman who was incarcerated, and that was the story of how I came to be into this world.
The woman with that bright smile learned firsthand about second chances by watching her adoptive father, Thurman Perry, run his Louisiana lawn care business.
And they don't make men like my daddy no more. The only people that he hired were the men from the local jail. They were from the prison work release program. He never treated them any differently.
Did he do that because he wanted to give them a second chance?
I believe so. In my heart, I really do.
Mr. Perry died before he could see his daughter go to LSU, but
In your personal life back home, they were foreclosing on your family home. Your mom was sick.
I mean, it was just everything was falling apart, and desperation led to a lot of poor choices.
while in college, she got arrested.
I had taken money that I did not earn from my work-study job. I got caught, of course, and immediately confessed to it.
She was charged with 27 felonies, and even though she paid the money back, she had to face Judge Bo Higginbotham.
He just was so kind to me, and he asked me if I was ready to go back to school. It was almost like it was a collaboration, like we were just having a meeting about my future. I feel like I was meeting with an advisor, and this was the judge on my criminal case, and there was just so much humanity in that moment, and it really changed the trajectory of my entire life.
Wow. Wow.
The judge decided not to give her jail time, and that was another second chance.
Dear Judge Higginbotham,
It meant so much to her that she wrote him a letter.
I stood before you just about 7 years ago as a first-time nonviolent offender. When you called my case, you were incredibly kind to me. Your decision to not punish me saved my life, and because of that, I get to go save other people's lives now too. In deep sincerity, Gabrielle Angelique Perry. Oh my God, hi.
Ms. Perry, how are you?
It's nice to see you again, sir. I didn't think they would bother you with this.
No, they're not bothering me at all. I keep your letter on my desk every single day. It gives me inspiration to do what I do every single day.
He took her to his chambers to show her he wasn't kidding.
I took a lot of care in making that letter. I really just never thought that it even got to you. I just sent it because I felt like...
Been sitting right here.
Even after the judge showed mercy to her, she struggled.
We are in the place that I was homeless the longest.
Bathing in a bucket, walking 3 miles a day to work. That was her life, she says, for nearly 3 months after her arrest.
My peers, my sorority sisters, everyone kind of just led the charge in just isolating me.
And that experience gave definition to what has become her passion project, the Thurman Perry Foundation, named for her daddy. The foundation gives financial assistance and essential public health resources to women and girls impacted by incarceration.
My education saved my life. Being able to educate women and girls is not just a nicety, it's a public health measure, it's a public safety measure.
And that leads us to Tamika Starks, the first of more than a dozen incarcerated women to get a $1,000 scholarship from the Perry Foundation. They had never met until this moment, inside the Louisiana women's prison.
It's okay, we're here together. It's a moment. You just look exactly like all your pictures, and I keep all your letters, and and I'm just so happy.
Yeah, I'm happy to see you, and I'm grateful for the work that you do. You are giving us ladies a voice. So there's purpose in the pain, there's purpose in the opposition, there's purpose in your tears. We are very, very grateful.
Starks is serving a 20-year sentence for manslaughter.
What is your story about how you came to be here?
Well, I came to be here through domestic violence.
I remember calling the police multiple times, and I also called the domestic violence hotline a couple times, and I was told to get a dog. To get a dog. So in the moment, instead of running away, I ran towards him, and I shot my husband, and he died.
So in awarding a scholarship to her, what is your hope?
Essentially, women who are incarcerated, they're erased. I want to be able to give them a sense of dignity and to be able to give them a sense of purpose.
Just as Judge Higginbotham gave to her.
Your decision not to punish me is definitely reverberated. We have a scholarship program, especially, which is honestly a direct result of you letting me go back to school. I got to pull myself and my mom out of poverty. I got to be somebody.
Well, I played a very minor role in this. You are the person that did everything.
But in fact, he empowered her to go on to get 3 degrees, including a master's of public health in epidemiology. She is now a 29-year-old epidemiologist studying infectious diseases.
A lot of us move through life and people are nice to us, but it doesn't stop us and give us pause. What is it about kindness that gives you such pause?
There's been such a lack of it. There's such a lack of it in the world in general. It's like you forfeit that by having crossed through a jail cell. It's like you are no longer worthy of that. And I don't believe that.
And so when someone is kind to you, it has the ability to literally change the trajectory of your life.
I'm living proof of that.
Crescencia Garcia is 102 years old. I'm going to say that again. She's 102 years old, people. One of the last surviving members of an all-female, all-black unit that served in England during the war. It's the only military women's unit to receive the Congressional Gold Medal, and Garcia's role in its very vital mission is finally coming to light. Why? Because she's got a very loving granddaughter. She introduced Crescencia Garcia to our lead national correspondent, David Begnaud, and so you know magic's got to happen. This morning, David takes us on a journey through her long life with a special surprise tribute you will not want to miss.
It's kind of crazy.
2 years ago, I received a message from Tara Garcia.
Hi, David.
She told me that her grandmother, Crescencia, had beaten COVID at the age of 100. Now, that was at the beginning of the pandemic, and we all needed good news then. So I tweeted about it and included pictures that Tara had sent to me, one of which included her grandmother in a military uniform.
I just knew that she was a veteran and that she was in the Army and that she was very proud.
That tweet went viral, and it was seen by retired Army Colonel Edna Cummings.
It was like being in a casino and hitting the jackpot.
She started connecting some dots and reached out to Garcia's family. She spoke to Tara.
She says, let's start here. Give me her dog tag numbers and we'll compare them.
As it turns out,
she was in a burn unit about 30 kilometers from Birmingham, England, treating soldiers because it was just such a manpower shortage all over, Europe.
Get this. Crescencia Garcia is one of only 6 surviving members of an all-female, all-black segregated unit that was sent overseas during World War II. Known as the 6888, the 855 women that served in that unit are now receiving long overdue recognition.
They're the only military women's unit to receive the Congressional Gold Medal. They are part of an elite group of less than 200 recipients, the first being General George Washington.
And I was just like, you gotta be kidding me. And everything matched up. And I looked at my parents and I was like, I think we just opened Pandora's box here.
They sure did. They found out that Miss Garcia's name is on a monument at Fort Leavenworth in Kansas.
Now, as the family's finding out about all this, I had no clue. I never heard from Tara again.
I got a call from the good folks at Oprah Daily. In fact, I was here at home, and they said, David, we were just pitched about a story involving a 102-year-old woman who served during World War II, and her family is only now learning stories that they'd never heard before. So my team said, we got to do something. So they called Tara, and we had a surprise. May I say hello?
Oh, dude.
How are you? I have wanted to meet you.
Are you kidding?
Surprise. Oh, the pleasure is mine. The pleasure is mine.
You don't understand. You don't understand.
Well, I came to listen.
Hi.
Hi.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm so sorry.
It's okay. I feel the same. Miss Crescencia, my name is David.
David?
David.
Hi, David.
Hi. It's very nice to meet you. It's an honor, actually.
Is it?
To meet you. It is.
Good for you.
She enlisted in the U.S. Army at the age of 24 after being enraged by the bombing of Pearl Harbor. The Army sent her to Texas for basic training.
They put me in the black section, and there is the white section. That's America to you. See? That's America to you. And it's very sad, you know? Very sad.
I want to talk about your service.
Wasn't much.
It wasn't much?
No, I was just a medic.
You were a medic.
Yeah, I was just to take care of the herd.
The herd.
You know, when they came in, I took care of them.
Thank you for your service.
You're welcome. I am proud to be an American.
What is this moment like for you?
I am delighted that everyone gets to see what I see. Because some people don't get it until you actually experience it and see it.
You don't live to be 102 without being a spark plug.
I mean, right? You're full of life. You are full of life.
He said 102? Oh my God.
You just reminded her how old
Be
she
careful, because you'll be my grandson.
Oh, you look great. You look great.
Thank you.
Mrs. Garcia was born in Puerto Rico on April 18, 1920. A loaf of bread cost you 12 cents then. Woodrow Wilson was the president, and women didn't have the right to vote. When World War II began, she told us she had already moved to New York City and felt a patriotic duty to serve her country. After the war, she married Esteban Garcia II, an Army veteran himself. They raised 3 children in the Bronx. She spent her post-war work years working as a seamstress and a pattern maker in New York City's garment district. Her husband died in 1994 after 47 years of marriage.
That's my grandfather.
Let me see this handsome man. Now, we had arranged for a little surprise for Mrs. Garcia, but the surprise timeline was a little off, and she was getting a little restless. So what were we going to do?
You want scotch? I have Johnny Walker.
Johnny Walker.
You want one? Yeah?
Yeah, Johnny
She wants a scotch.
Does she really? Can we cheers?
We're going to have a toast.
Okay.
A toast to you
To me.
at 102.
Thank you to you and 102.
Amen.
Cheers.
Salud.
Mama, salud.
Salud.
Finally, the phone rang. So I have one other surprise for you. Can you answer that, please?
Hello?
Tara? Hi, how are you? It's Jill Biden. How are you doing?
Hi. I'm great. How are you?
I'm great too. I hear you have a very special grandmother.
I do.
Hello.
Hi, it's Jill Biden.
Oh,
Uh-huh.
wow. My salute for you, woman.
Oh.
You're the one that needs to be celebrated. You are one incredible woman, and I can't thank you enough for all your service to our country.
And I salute you. Keep it up. Keep up the good work.
Oh.
I'm trying to follow in your footsteps and in your example.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tara, for sharing this moment with me and with all of America.
Thank you so much.
Love you
It's
both.
really nice to meet you. Take care.
Love you.
Mrs. Garcia's memory is fading, but let me tell you, in that moment, she was fully present. How amazing was that?
The fact that she knew who that was.
Yeah.
And she felt that, that acknowledgement just now, that's all I needed. That's all I needed. I said, I just want her to remember, that's all.
If you were to say to Markel Taylor, hey man, what is your secret to success? He just might say, if you fall in life, just get up and keep running. At 49 years old, he is gearing up for the Chicago Marathon this fall. The streets of California is where he trains.
This is where I was raised, right here.
Not bad for the views.
Nah, it's beautiful.
But for nearly 18 years, Taylor could only dream of training in this scenic city by the bay from his window at San Quentin State Prison.
When you got sentenced, did you think you were going away for life?
Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't think I would never get out.
In 2001, he physically assaulted his pregnant girlfriend.
When she went to the ground, she said, I felt like the baby stopped moving. The instinct came on again, like, what the hell did I do? Why did I do this? What the hell is going on?
So they convicted you for the death of your son?
Yes.
After you abused his mother?
Yes.
What was the sentence?
They made it 15 years to life.
It was a life-changing moment for a man who says he was a victim of violence as a boy.
We would get abused if the dishes ain't washed, or if the house ain't clean, or if it ain't clean to their specifications. Then we would get whooped out of our sleep.
Out of your sleep?
Out of our sleep.
Did something about that say to you that, hey, hitting people is how you handle things?
Yes, that was that connection there.
Growing up, did anybody tell you they were proud of you?
Only my teachers.
Ironically, it took going to prison for him to hear words like that again. Inside, Taylor joined the 1,000-mile running club. It's a track team at the prison, led by volunteer coaches.
3 minutes down!
His speed earned him a nickname, Markel the Gazelle, they called him. It's a story that will be highlighted in a documentary coming out soon.
How many races did you run in prison?
Every month we had a race.
How many did you win?
I won every one of them except for one.
What were the euphoric feelings that you got running in prison?
I got an emotional high.
An emotional high.
An emotional high.
Uh-huh.
It was also because when I ran to honor my son. It was like that, you know what? You made a mistake, but keep running. We have faith in you to be a better person.
Nice, Markel.
That faith stemmed from the kindness of his coaches,
Finish strong, head up, nice.
like Diana Fitzpatrick.
Great workout. You have a choice when you end up at a place like San Quentin, and you can just lay around and let the time go by and wait for something to happen, or you can take control of your life and try to do something with it. And Markel's someone who really chose to do something with his life.
Did it ever occur to you that you showing him that he mattered is maybe why you got the best out of him?
I guess I always believed in Markel. Okay, stride. And trusted him. It makes me feel happy. So, yeah.
With that support, Markel Taylor did something that has never been done at San Quentin before. He ran a marathon that was so fast he qualified for the 2019 Boston Marathon. And get this, a month before the marathon, he was released on parole after serving nearly 18 years, and they gave him special permission to race.
I couldn't really enjoy Boston because I was still being happy and appreciative of just being free.
Well, this spring he went back and ran Boston again, off parole, and truly a free man.
What was the time then?
2:52 flat.
And that is a time so speedy, he placed in the top 5% of all the runners.
It's now your drug.
Exactly. It's not my drug, but it's a positive, good drug that don't hurt people.
That's right.
It helps people.
He's been given a new starting line at life. He's now got his own one-bedroom apartment where he's starting to cook again. He got promoted at the grocery store where they took a chance on him. His boss told us he is a humble warrior.
Have a good day. Thank you, man.
New opportunities for a new man who's moving in the right direction.
What do I see in your eyes?
Someone that stopped running, that don't need to run no more, that can stand up to all my fears and anxieties. I feel like I signed a pledge of being nonviolent, and I know that not only do I owe it to myself and the people who are victimized in my lifetime, I owe it to all those who are counting on me and people who are looking for me to be a positive influence in their life. All right. What do I look like? What is my tombstone gonna say later when I pass?
What would you like for it to say?
That he fell, but he got up, and he changed the life of a lot of human beings for the better. That's why I keep doing it. And sometimes I have to do stuff like this to continue to validate myself.
This type of stuff helps keep you accountable, doesn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what it is, the accountability.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what it is.
Have you ever seen someone on the back of a 1,200-pound horse jump a fence? Well, watch again. Because Lissa Bachner is doing it blind.
I do not see this fence at all until right now.
How much is getting to a jump and getting over it dependent on the horse taking you there?
98%.
Wow.
Her left eye is a prosthetic. As for the right eye,
what exactly can you see where?
I see my finger when it gets here, and then it disappears at here.
You see a little bit of light, but again, it's blurry. You can't make out quite what it is.
Right.
You can see color.
I see color very well. The minute I see that white fence with flowers and the green, I know I need my outside leg.
she invited us to her farm in Wellington, Florida, where she even gave me a chance to ride with her.
When did you start riding?
When I was 3.
She grew up at an equestrian center in Virginia that her mother owned. She's been a champion rider since the age of 5, when she was diagnosed with uveitis. That's a rare inflammatory eye disease, and it made school difficult.
Was childhood lonely for you?
No, I had horses.
It was her mother who encouraged her to follow her passion and ride.
Everything good in my life is because of my mother. My mother knew, as much as she wanted to keep me at home and keep me safe, she bought me a horse.
Bachner never doubted herself, but her fellow competitors did.
They were making fun of my riding, that I should stop. I remember looking away from them because I was crying, and I remember thinking, I am going to kick your ass the next time I get in that ring. That was when I was determined to figure out how to do it, and better than anyone else.
Enter Milo, an inexperienced horse that Bachner's trainer found in Europe.
This horse walked off the trailer, and I looked at it and went, yuck. And I looked at this emaciated, mangy creature.
Milo needed somebody to believe in him, and Bachner did. Not only did Milo carry her over jumps, he guided her through the countless mental and emotional obstacles as they traveled the country together, competing and winning.
Where was Milo ranked in the country with you?
In 2004, we won the country.
I get the chills just listening to you say that.
Well, not only that, now I've got the chills. So we were so in tune with each other, and we went for 3 months where we didn't lose a class.
The pair's extraordinary bond is told in her book, Milo's Eyes. While she was at the top of her game, she says she misunderstood a conversation between her mother and stepfather that led her to think the competitions were costing too much money. So Bachner suddenly sold Milo.
I thought I was bleeding everyone dry. I wasn't contributing. It was a lot of money.
In hindsight, the decision to sell him was...
Worst decision of my life.
Because you'd lost more than a champion. You lost...
I had lost my best friend. I had lost my savior.
But 3.5 years later...
And I very quietly said, Milo,
Really?
And if horses could cry, I could feel his body heaving. I mean, of course, I was a mess. And I walked down. I said, I don't understand. And my mom said, I bought Milo back for you. I found him, and I bought him back for you. And I looked at her and I said, he's mine again? And she said, he's always been yours.
Together again, Milo carried Bachner to one more victory.
We walked in the ring, and they announced us. The entire Coliseum went silent.
Wow.
And hearing our name together. And so 3 classes, 100 people in each class, won every single one.
You did?
On this horse that was now 16, almost 17 years old.
That was their last hurrah before Milo died at the age of 17.
I knew the moment he was gone because I felt him go through me. It was awful.
Nothing will replace Milo.
Left here.
But Lissa may have found her next best partner.
This is magnetic, owned and shown by Aziza Shuler.
Now, with less than 5% of her eyesight remaining, she's putting her trust in a new horse she calls Mango.
Good job, Lissa.
Last month, we were there as she and Mango won first in their class at the World Equestrian Center in Ocala, Florida. Now 49 years old, Lissa Bachner is riding and she's writing with the intention of helping others.
To the people who will watch this and say, oh my gosh, I'm inspired by this woman, what would you say?
I would tell them I knew myself well enough to know that I could not exist without the horses, and that I had to find a way to continue to ride. There are people who don't give up and don't take no for an answer, and I did not do it myself. I had a lot of help, and I have no shame in saying that I asked for help, and I got it.
In coffee shops around the country, you might want to look out for a little book titled, Today I Am Grateful For. It's there so that people in search of a latte can also search their souls and write a few words about what they are grateful for. Astoria Coffee in New York City was the first place the book showed up.
And it's so simple, it's just a few minutes every day.
Teddy Droseros, who for 10 years has written down what he is grateful for every day.
Thankful for the amazing dinner I had with my brother.
Put the book in the coffee shop with the permission of the owner.
So Astoria, you drop it off, and then do you keep going back to the coffee shop every day?
Yeah, I check up on it and write myself. And
what was it like seeing people sitting there writing in it?
Oh, that's always an awesome experience, like, because people would just take it and bring it to their seat and just read through it.
So explain to me what the gratitude journal was going to be.
I was just like, oh, this is just a tool that I can leave around everywhere to inspire people to practice gratitude.
It didn't take long before the book filled up, and so another one was left there.
I'm thankful for my pup, my health, friends, and fam. I'm grateful for living room, dance parties, and non-sexual intimacy.
I love it. I love it.
And at Bird Rock Coffee in San Diego, California, he put out more books after he moved there.
So then, how many coffee shops did you end up giving books to around the country?
I actually don't know. My friends would help me out. You know, when they were traveling, they would get books out there, and then I started getting random emails from strangers saying, hey, I saw this in this coffee shop. Can we bring it to my neighborhood?
He calls his project Grateful Peoples, and a lot of that gratitude comes right back to him after the books are all filled up.
How many of them came back?
At least 100, I would say.
So when you got your first book back and you went through it, how was that?
I noticed that when I would feel down, I would go pick up one of the filled up books I collected. It would like instant make me feel better.
Teddy Droseros, by his own admission, was not always a grateful person, and thinks about that when he comes here, where he watched his mother's ashes flow into the Pacific Ocean.
What did she have?
She was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis when I was a baby, but eventually passed from cancer.
His mother's illness robbed him of a normal childhood, and it left him bitter, he says.
My experience with her and her sickness, you know, MS impacts the brain and changes behavior and personality, and it was difficult. It was kind of hard to be grateful for it at the time, and the thing with why I became so passionate about gratitude and started Grateful Peoples is because the more time I took to write in this journal, I realized that everything I was experiencing with my mom was seriously my biggest blessing I'll probably ever have.
Do you have your first entry?
Yeah. February 29th, 2012. I'm thankful I was born healthy into a great family with all limbs and able to do everything I was able to as a child. Playing all those sports growing up was a blessing.
If you need a fresh journal.
Now schools have teamed up with Grateful Peoples because Teddy Droseros has distributed 20,000 books to school children.
I'm grateful for my father.
I am grateful for how education changed how I spoke and how I wrote.
I'm grateful for my little brother doing good in school.
It turns out that gratitude can foster more gratitude, and people actually want to read about it.
So you ended up writing a book, and the book was written with the entries of all kinds of people.
Yeah, it was just
Right?
like a collection of
Yeah.
gratitude thoughts.
And what'd you call the book?
Today I'm grateful for.
And how many entries?
About 1,000.
Did you read every one of those in the book?
So I collected 75,000 entries, and I read through every single one, which was a blessing because it was just like 75,000 bits of perspective.
Somewhere in those 75,000 entries was one that said Deanna, and today remains part of the legacy of Deanna Mondello, a dancer who died too young at 28 years old in a car crash.
When someone passes, you want to collect everything and every memory and everything that they touched and wrote.
Jen Freeman, a fellow dancer, was among the people who knew that a gratitude book at that Astoria coffee shop held a link to her friend Deanna.
So I went to the coffee shop and I asked who was responsible for these journals, and they put me in touch with Teddy.
Did Deanna seem to you to be a person of gratitude?
Yes, and that is what is really beautiful and sort of serendipitous about this whole connection coming together. Hearing about Deanna was sort of a catalyst for him to actually embark on this journey of creating this book. It makes so much sense to me because that was the way she lived her life. Like, she always was expressing her gratitude.
And Teddy's own mother, just before she died, wrote on July 11th, 2019.
She wrote, "I'm grateful to be alive." Just knowing where my mom was when she wrote that, the fact that she was able to just think and feel that way is special to me, and that's why I love this journal, and I'll have it with me forever. I got a piece of my mom here.
It's been 5 years since Teddy Droseros first left that gratitude book at that New York City coffee shop. He's still writing in them, a new one these days, and more often than not, about his mother.
The more you lose, the more I gain. As your illness took away the simple things, it made me realize how lucky I am to have them. I'm not sure I'd understand how lucky I am to tie my own shoes if I didn't have to tie yours when you couldn't do it anymore. But gratitude taught me it only makes sense to love something I can't change. It's the inspiration behind everything I do.
I just had a big aha moment. Gratitude taught me to love something I cannot change.
Yeah, that's what gratitude does. It allows you to shift your perspective of what already is. Like, I can't change that my mom was sick, but I can look at it as a blessing, or I can look at it as something dark. But my relationship with her is the best it's ever been. It really is.
Even though she's long gone, it continues?
Yeah, oh, for sure. I'm more connected to her now than I ever was.
When this baby boy entered the world in Lafayette, Louisiana in 2018, his parents, Connie Despani and Benjamin Hall, named him Kingston. But they didn't have a middle name. It came to them by chance, in the form of a handwritten letter that they had received at the hospital. Kingston was just minutes old. A surveillance camera at Lafayette General Medical Center captured a stranger asking for directions so that she could deliver that letter. Who was she?
To my dad's angel, even though I will never know your name, you are the first child born here after my dad's passing. When one life is taken, another is given. Please keep my dad in your prayers.
His name is James. Thank you.
This was that stranger, Jamie Fontenot. You see, shortly after her father, 86-year-old James Lee Grimmett, died in the hospital, Jamie heard sweet music.
It's a lullaby that plays throughout the hospital. Families of newborns come here and they press that button in the labor and delivery ward, playing the lullaby, letting everybody know a newborn just arrived.
On January 12, 2018, Kingston Hall was born right after Mr. Grimmett died. The timing seemed more than coincidental.
Somebody said, well, then that's Dad's angel.
So with no escort, you just took your letter and...
I just took my letter and I went to the OB unit. I said, my dad passed away about 10:40. So give this to the first baby that was born after that time.
Dr. Jennifer Puglisi and nurse Sydney Begnaud received Jamie's letter. Dr. Puglisi gave it to Connie.
And she started reading it silently, and she just had tears streaming down her face, and it was really beautiful.
I came in and the dad says, oh, we found our middle name. And I'm like, oh, great, what is it? And he says, well, it's James, of course. And I'm like, oh, yes, of course.
My nurse followed me to that side, and she was like, well, do you mind if we get your information and give it to Miss Jamie?
We asked Connie, do you remember who that nurse was?
I know her name was, I think, Miss Cindy.
Sydney?
Sydney, yes. I think it was Sydney, Miss Sydney.
So that's my mom.
Really? What a coincidence. That's awesome.
Thank you, Mom.
Yes, it was my mom who helped to deliver baby Kingston, and then told me the story of how a stranger wrote a letter to Connie, who then decided that the best middle name for Kingston was James, named in honor of Mr. Grimmett.
Oh my gosh. I'm so happy you came. I'm happy to meet you. I didn't think I was going to meet you.
I didn't think I'd ever see you either.
The best part for Jamie? Holding Kingston James.
Aww.
What are we to take away from a story like this?
Family is everything. And if you don't have faith, you don't have anything.
You just never know when a blessing is going to come and fall in your lap.
So y'all will stay in touch?
Oh, yes, of course.
We all want to clap, so we're just going to clap.
Well, that was 4 years ago.
How are you now?
Good.
Good, great.
Everybody's great, yes.
Blessed.
Blessed.
Hi!
Oh, how big you are!
This is actually the first time they've seen each other since the pandemic started.
You got it mastered, Mom.
Baby Kingston just started pre-K.
There you go.
When you see him, do you think about your dad?
Always.
Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah.
Always.
And my name is Kingston James Hall.
What does it do for you when you hear him say his name? Do you think about her dad?
Yes, and how far he's came in Kingston. He loves to say his name.
Does he?
Yes, he'll tell you, I'm Kingston James Hall. And I said, well, go ahead, baby. I can't even describe it. Because he's here, and on top of that, he was blessed with an angel.
That's right.
That's right, coming into the world.
Jamie has been following every milestone, even putting together a special picture book for Kingston's baptism.
He was 86 years old.
I wanted something, you know, sort of set in stone that he could have through the years, that he could look back at when he was born and the story behind what happened.
What's happened between the two of you in the last 4 years?
Well, we talk, we text, she sends pictures.
What do you hope this story does for other people?
Share that good things still happen, that strangers can become family.
That like everybody can come on one accord.
Right.
And love one another unconditionally without even knowing each other.
That's it. Yes.
Yes.
Definitely.
When Alan Hawes goes to work at the Medical University of South Carolina in Charleston, he brings with him a special ability, a talent, really, that he uses when he cares for the sickest of the sick COVID patients. He takes pictures of what you and I would usually never see. Because before he became a nurse 11 years ago, he spent 23 years as a newspaper photographer. And that gives him the ability to tell the stories of these patients.
This is a gentleman named Ryan Simpson. We had to send him emergently to our cardiac ICU.
And y'all believe COVID is what damaged the heart so severely?
Oh yeah, his heart was beating so fast For many days.
How fast?
135 to 165. And this is his wife, Sarah. So this is the first moment that she saw him that day and was, I think, kind of taken aback by all the people in the room as they were preparing to take him to the operating room.
You know, so many frontline workers have said to us, if only the public could see what we see. Well, Alan Hawes convinced one of the largest hospitals in South Carolina to allow him to give sight to what those caregivers routinely see.
This is a woman who was very sick. She was with us for a long, long time, and her family brought in this prayer cloth.
The family wasn't able to visit, but this prayer cloth was sort of their representative.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened to the lady?
She didn't make it.
His pictures document COVID's grip as it tightens.
And he was totally there. As you can see, he's texting people on his cell phone, telling them what's going on.
But why did you want to capture this?
I felt like I knew where he was going.
And what happened?
This is what happened.
Oh.
So 2 days later, I walked in and there he was.
Vaccinated?
He is unvaccinated.
So you're now at a place, if I'm hearing you right, where you're like, c'est la vie, it is what it is. Don't want to get vaccinated, wind up here.
I have quite a few times had a patient who's unvaccinated, and I'll think to myself, you did this to yourself. But that doesn't last long. It's part of being a good nurse is having empathy. Once you hear the stories of some of our patients from their family members, you can become a fan of that person, and you just know that they made a bad decision.
You humanize them.
Yeah.
You're mad at them when they come in the door, and then you start to find out who they are.
I've had some really hard times with that. I mean, nurses are broken right now, emotionally.
Are you?
I feel like I am, yes.
Every time he gets permission to photograph, either from the patients or their family members.
I think people have a message that they want to get out there.
The mother holding a picture of the newborn she can't touch. The girlfriend who keeps a bedside journal. This is Alan's colleague, a nurse. He's triple vaccinated, but a lifelong asthma patient.
With all due respect, this is one example where a picture doesn't actually do it justice.
No, it doesn't. This is a picture where I was like, man, I wish I had video.
Give me a second.
No, yeah, you slow down and...
Well, our producer was in the room with the video camera.
Breathe in. I don't need anything else exacerbated anymore.
I do wonder whether some people are going to be like, put that camera down and pay attention, just like full-time nurse.
Yeah, well, when I'm doing that, they're not my patients. I don't take pictures of my own patients.
Finally.
This is Mr. Croxton. He had the heartstrings of about every nurse in our unit, I think, when he was there.
Joel David Croxton was 72 years old when he died. This was the nurse who broke down after she called his wife to tell her it was time to come in and say goodbye. His wife Sandy holding his hand. A nurse holding an iPad while a chaplain prayed with him. This was the picture of Croxton that worried Alan Hawes. Would it be too painful for his wife to see? Then again, Hawes usually never sees the families again.
Someone would like to see you.
On this day, they did. Alan Hawes saw Sandy Croxton again.
How are you doing?
This time they just held each other. No pictures needed. Just thank you to each other.
That was 7 months ago. Now.
Hey, David.
How are you?
I'm doing good. Busier in a different kind of way. Not the amount of patients that we had before, and they're not as, generally not as sick as they were before.
Right after our story about your work aired, what happened?
Oh, my goodness. I mean, my life changed, for sure.
How so?
I heard from people all across the country. I got handwritten notes sent to my house thanking me for everything that I do. I heard from healthcare workers across the country saying that they felt like I was speaking for them. It was just an outstanding experience.
So you've had an exhibit of your work at a public library in town since we saw you. How did that go?
That went well. It was at the Charleston County Public Library. They took just about all my pictures from my project, and it toured around to the different branches.
A lot of your pictures showed people who were non-believers. They didn't believe COVID was that serious, or they didn't believe in the vaccine. Are you still experiencing that a lot?
I am, although I find myself not asking as much as I used to, because a lot of times I don't want to know the answer.
And he is still capturing powerful images inside the ICU. Tell me about this photo you took with the mom and daughter at the bedside of this man.
I was working in the medical ICU at the time, and one of my coworkers was telling me how sick this gentleman was and that they were planning on withdrawing care from him on that day.
These were taken back in March. His name is Victor Rodriguez.
I approached the family and asked them if I made some photos of you in the room with him during his last hours. And they agreed to allow that. It was gut-wrenching. There was a lot of love there. His wife climbed in the bed with him to be with him for the last time.
Where does that picture stand in terms of impact on you?
That was a really hard one to take. I didn't want to disturb anything. And when his wife, Diane, got in the bed with him, I just thought that that was one of the most beautiful things that you could do during the last minutes that you're going to have with your loved one.
I'm a 35-year-old Houstonian, and I suffer from agoraphobia. I seemingly lead a normal life as a local store manager, but no one knows that I haven't traveled beyond a 1-mile radius from my home in over 10 years. My childhood was extremely limited due to my mother suffering with agoraphobia, and my adult years have been no different since my diagnosis at the age of 19.
You just read that on national television. How does that feel?
It feels freeing.
Finish the sentence for me. For me, agoraphobia is?
For me, agoraphobia is prison.
You work across the street from your house.
I do.
You eat across the street.
I do.
Tell me some of the things you've missed.
All of my sister's graduations, my niece's graduation, tons of birthday celebrations, 2 grandmothers' funerals, my sister's wedding. She sends me an email right as she's about to walk down the aisle. In the email, she said, I know that you would be here. I'm sorry, I haven't talked about this.
Cecil found an online lecture from Dr. Karen Cassidy, the owner of the Chicago-based Anxiety Treatment Center. This year, he emailed her.
While I have never met you, it became clear that you understand some of the challenges that many of us face. I want to reclaim my life.
Dr. Cassidy arranged for a Houston therapist to treat Cecil with online sessions, but he was not prepared for what we had up our sleeve, meeting Dr. Cassidy for the first time in person.
You are the bravest man I know right now. I've been so excited to see you. I'm going to be your exposure coach today.
She flew to Houston at our invitation. Tell her what you'd like to do.
I'd like to ride an escalator.
Yeah.
I'd like to go to the grocery store.
Part of Dr. Cassidy's therapy would be to provoke Cecil's anxiety by intentionally hyperventilating. That this is done to get him used to the sensation of panic and learn that he can handle it and teach his body to not respond with panic attacks.
So my goal isn't to make this easy.
Okay.
It's to step into the heat.
Okay.
And to discover you can take it, okay?
So where's the first place we're going, Cecil?
So the first place we're going to go is to the mall. We're going to ride an escalator.
He was last on an escalator 4 years ago.
So let's do it.
He'd rely on exercises to induce dizziness in order to push through.
Fantastic. You are acing this.
What did you feel?
The sweaty palms, the dizziness, the sensitivity to light. I think I stood there for like 3 minutes talking to her, 2 minutes talking to you, and it just subsided.
Next up was the grocery store. Now, Cecil hadn't been to one of those in 3 years, until now.
He is doing so well.
It's amazing. It's amazing to be here.
Lines overwhelm him. Even the smallest purchase was a big accomplishment.
Yes, 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 yes.
I think that sometimes when you suffer, you feel like nobody sees you. When you deal with agoraphobia, people write you off and you're often hidden in the shadows.
We see you, Cecil. We see you.
Thank you.
That was almost 5 months ago. How are you now?
Amazing.
What's changed?
One of the things I remember distinctly discussing with you or writing in the letter was about, those obligatory trips to the grocery store or Target, those simple things. And now that's just a part of my life. I'm learning to go towards fear. And I think that, honestly, the biggest thing for me has been really accepting the freedom that was always there. I just didn't know how to operate in it.
There's something about the way you're sitting and holding yourself that is even more confident.
Yeah, absolutely. And when I initially met with you, that my issue was just agoraphobia. And that if I only solved that, then that would be the answer to everything. Little did I know that opened the door to self-discovery.
What else have you discovered?
Who I am, what I like, what my hobbies are, the ability to say no, the freedom in saying, and the power in being able to finally say yes, to know that feelings aren't facts, to know that feelings aren't my ultimate authority.
Tick-tock through where you've been that you never would have gone to before you started on this journey.
To give a short list, I've been on the freeway, I've been to a preserve, I've been to a number of parks, I've been to visit friends. The list could go on and on. It has been absolutely amazing, and many of these things are things that just happened. They weren't planned. I just woke up and said, today, I'm doing what I want to do today.
But it seems to me you found the way to go inward and find that you have the answers to unlocking the issues you needed to unlock anyway.
It's crazy. I always thought that I needed something, that there was something that was going to come and rescue me, whether that was a person or a thing, and I thought that that would be the magical thing that did it, and I waited for a long time for that thing to come. And what I discovered in this process is that the missing part was me. I needed me, and I hadn't connected that link, and when I realized that, I understood that everything that I needed was already inside of me. It had been there all along.
Is there a struggle or a boundary that you haven't been able to cross yet?
Absolutely. I want to be clear in that. It's still a process. There are still things that I struggle with. Of course, there's still places that I haven't gone.
Such as? What are you still struggling with?
I haven't been on a plane. There's still places here that I have yet to go. But I think that for me, the difference now is that I'm okay with being afraid and still doing it.
I know it took a lot of courage to sit down and do the interview with us and to write to me in the first place and tell me your story. You feel like it was worth it?
Oh, absolutely. There was something so transformative about even that experience. For a long time, I thought that I could heal from this and then come back out and say, okay, look at what I went through and I never told a soul. I understood, for me, that I couldn't heal and hide simultaneously, and it's been absolutely amazing.
My job is usually asking people, sometimes many times, to tell their story. You came to me saying, I'm ready to tell it. And that was such a unique experience even for me to witness. I thank you for that.
I thank you with everything in me. I thank you. I think that I know that this will be a moment that I will never forget. I know that my life has not been the same. It will never be the same. And I'm excited.
By the way, do you want to get on a plane?
Absolutely. First person I'm coming to see is you.
Among the coastal hills of Northern California, right in the middle of wine country.
My favorite part of my day is my donkey hunt.
Ron King has created a donkey sanctuary.
It's the weight of the head that lets you know he is happy. This is so sweet.
This 75-acre ranch is a nonprofit dedicated to their rescue and rehabilitation.
They're intelligent and they have very high emotional intelligence. I give them love and they give me love back. I'm a donkey guy now.
It's a far cry from his pre-pandemic life, attired in Gucci, shuttling between New York and Los Angeles. As a senior VP for Time Inc., he managed sales and marketing for some well-known brands. Was there a moment in your life where you thought, damn, I've made it?
Yeah, I think it was when, I was flying first class to Milan to sit front row at Versace. That was a big deal.
But in 2018, the sale of Time led to the elimination of King's position. So he freelanced, But then COVID hit, the work dried up, and the despair set in. Then came a call from an old friend, Phil Selway, a prominent pop art dealer. He hired Ron to move to his ranch and sell it because it wasn't being used.
I thought it would be a win-win. He could help me tremendously, and it would help him, give him another project.
King took the job, and while hiking around the property, he felt something new, this sense of calm.
My head is always like a snow globe that's being shook. It never stops. That sense of sort of chaos in my head was just normal for me. When the snow globe stops after 20 years, you feel that.
But you were still enough to recognize it.
I was still enough to recognize it.
And respectful enough to act on it.
I had no thoughts in my head except this beautiful surrounding. And I realized it's the first time I'd felt serenity in 20 years.
Well, serenity met serendipity. King discovered a story about the plight of donkeys, known historically as strong pack animals capable of hauling goods. But they've outlived their usefulness. So donkeys, which can live around 30 years, are sold at auction, slaughtered, and then skinned for their hides to be used for traditional Chinese medicine.
They don't have any advocates. They don't win races. They don't feed a food chain. And I thought, I need to help donkeys. So I said, Phil, I have an idea that I want to run by you. I want you to take it off the market, not sell it, and let me turn this into a donkey sanctuary.
That sounds bananas.
And he will tell you, he also said it sounded bananas.
The first thing I thought when Ron was giving this presentation was that he was crazy and I would be crazy to go along with this. It's absolutely blown me away, and I could not be happier.
Donations support their cause. Every donkey here would have been killed.
Patches was dying of starvation. The only way to help a donkey that's been abused emotionally recover is to love it back to health. And I had this moment where I realized that there's a difference between things that I enjoy and things that bring me joy. And I was 52 years old when I realized those were two different things. It's a whole different way of living. You will never be this sick again.
And in helping donkeys to heal, he may be healing his own invisible scars. King's struggles began at an early age, when this son of a Southern Baptist preacher first realized he was gay.
They were young and they were religious and they had a little sissy boy. So that didn't go well. All I really wanted all along was to matter. Come on.
By his 20s, he was homeless, addicted to drugs and alcohol. He got sober only after surviving an overdose. Understanding the power of resilience.
You wanted to take the donkeys hiking?
Yes, sir. Keep these guys fit.
King rebuilds the donkey's strength and trust so that they're ready for adoption.
For a long time, proving that I could be someone or be something motivated me. That part has gone. But I want to matter to the world, to the donkeys, to people.
You know, changing lives may be a heavy burden for a lot of people, but it is a load that these animals seem to haul with grace.
I was pretty accomplished by all those standards, and I found myself with the rug pulled out from under me. And for that level of despair to be so close, so recent, is really an important lesson in resilience and turnaround. Good morning. There is light at the end of the tunnel, and it's not always a freight train. Sometimes it's donkeys.
That was 7 months ago.
Ron, how are you now?
Yeah, things are going great. We have been flooded with donations and volunteers and adoptions, so it's been super busy and super fun. Hi. She's brand new here. She's just learning to trust us.
With the surge in donations, they've gone ahead and built 5 new pens for quarantining animals when they arrive. That's to protect the health of the herd.
We've taken in 5 donkeys in the last 3 weeks.
Do you still feel like what you are doing matters?
What I really realized is as long as we stay true to what we're doing and why we're doing it, that mattering starts to amplify. And then we now have 91 volunteers. All of our volunteers share how much they feel like they matter.
And his vulnerability struck a chord. He was invited to share his story with a group of medical professionals who help troubled teenagers.
I really spoke about different ways in which teens could feel like they matter, why mattering is of such importance. As you know, I was a struggling teen, and so that was really meaningful to me. Hi, baby girl. It's never too late for a new start and chasing joys. It's amplified out to literally thousands of people. And once that happens, you really feel like you're making a difference. Oh, my baby.
We're gonna give you $500.
No. I'm lost for words. Can I give you a hug?
Of course.
If you were to just scroll through Isaiah Garza's social media account, you would get what feels like a lesson in random acts of kindness.
Why? Why did you? I'm homeless. Thank you, sir. Hey, this is one of the best days of my life.
Every day, Garza lends a helping hand to strangers, and a lot of them are homeless.
I got you a brand new cell phone, sweetheart.
Phones, food, clothes, money, anything that might brighten their day.
To build an actual connection and a heartfelt love for a human being, it makes me feel really good.
And sometimes he gives them what they need most.
I raised you guys $25,000. You guys are getting a home. You guys are no longer homeless. I got kind of like obsessed with seeing people happy and seeing the reactions on people's faces who like maybe live on the streets or struggling, you know, because I myself as someone who struggled for so long.
Garza grew up in Washington State. His parents immigrated from Mexico. And he says life from the very beginning was not easy.
At one point, we got our house taken from us and we had no money and we had to sell everything. And we were living paycheck to paycheck, and just that I was like, I'm gonna find a way to get out of here and I'm going to save the day.
He eventually got a scholarship to fashion school in Los Angeles. But for almost a year, he lived on the streets of downtown LA.
Coming back here, it's just like facing your demon. It's just, it was tough at that time.
Maybe that's why you are so comfortable among
100%,
people who are experiencing homelessness.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I tell that to people all the time.
Yeah.
It's almost like a comfort level.
Those tough years didn't break him. He'll tell you it made him a better person and enabled him to do what he does today so selflessly.
If I didn't become homeless and struggle and suffer, I would have never have done what I'm doing today. It would have never have happened that way. There's no chance. There's no chance. Because it just gave me so much, you know?
Of what?
Passion and drive, maybe. Some weird energy that I can't, you know, that maybe suffering gives you. I'm gonna go to the store right now. I wanted to see if you needed anything. Are you serious? I'm dead serious.
He turned that suffering into a business as a well-renowned, celebrity-loved jewelry designer.
I actually became my own publicist and started contacting their managers and stylists myself. And I would just tell them like, hey, my name's Isaiah Garza, you know, I grew up homeless and I've experienced homelessness and this is my story. And people were crazy enough to say yes.
But I love that you didn't try and whitewash the story.
Sure.
You didn't try and sugarcoat it. You leaned into your homelessness.
I leaned into it because that's what makes like my story special in a way.
Isaiah Garza has garnered close to 10 million followers on social media. He's secured deals with brands like KFC. He's raised money through GoFundMe, and in some cases, he uses his own money to give back.
How do you make sure that when you go out and shoot that video, you don't come off like a used car salesman?
There's always going to be people that are going to be skeptical no matter what you do. I think I know inside of my heart and soul that I'm coming from an angle of love. And as long as you approach things with love, that's all that matters. Ice cream, ice cream, get your ice cream.
On the day that we were with him, he rented an ice cream truck, handing out free ice cream to people who are homeless on Skid Row in downtown LA.
We're all the light sometimes, but he's the light sometimes. Without him flashing his light, we'll get lost in that dark.
He told us that he hopes to build lifelong connections and even friendships with people like the Gerardo family.
I forgot my wallet today.
Okay.
And I wanted to see if he'd be able to like possibly buy my lunch for me.
So he surprised the family by first asking them to give him money.
How did you feel about being asked by a stranger for money?
Well, I was surprised, and then, all right, it's only money. I could earn that one again. As long as it helps you, that makes me feel better.
And that's when Garza turned the tables.
I would love to buy you and your family's Christmas presents. I'm gonna give you guys $500.
Wow.
So, for Christmas, man.
It turns out the Gerardos had just moved to America, and they were struggling financially and emotionally. Their daughter Sophia has cerebral palsy.
Lord, she made me multiple Monday, you know?
Since December, Garza has helped to raise over $36,000 for the family.
What would you want people watching this story to know about Isaiah and his idea?
It's like his angel sent from above. Here I am, answering all your problems.
How much was this?
This will be $5.
$5?
Yeah.
I'm actually gonna give you $500.
What do you get from these videos?
I mean, life and love. It's like a really generic answer, but that's what it is.
What are you hoping to do next?
My goal is ultimately to become one of the greatest philanthropists of my generation. I want to build schools in third world countries, and I want to build my own shelter someday, or shelters. I think that I was born to do this, and when you're born to do something, you're going to do it until like the wheels fall off.
The life story of Deanna Schroeds was a story without a beginning. At least she didn't know the beginning, but she was determined to find out.
I have to know where I started, and I have to know who else out there is a part of me. That desire never left.
Schroeds was adopted as an infant. She was 27 years old when she found her biological mom.
She was not open to meeting me, and then I went and met her personally. I just showed up, knocked on the door.
So you meet her, and you guys end up having a relationship for how many years?
20 years until she died.
You had one question for your mother, which you kept asking.
Yeah.
And it was?
Who is my father?
And her answer was?
I'm gonna go to the grave with the name. Had no idea she was sick. Had no idea that there was cancer brewing. Weeks later, she was diagnosed, and a couple months later, she was dead.
She took it to the grave.
She took it right to the grave. Just give me a call.
Now, the story almost ended right there. But her mom did tell her two important things about her dad. He was Greek and from Richmond, Virginia. So she set out, creating a private Facebook group, Finding Mr. Greek. She gathered a group of friends and volunteers who would help search for him. And she signed up for multiple DNA registries, hoping that science would lead her to her father.
How many years do they try to find Mr. Greek?
Well, it's been 10 years. I got maybe 5 matches on my father's side. So I'm like, this is terrible. Like, we don't have anything to work with here on the DNA side.
Just open yourself up for just a new level of healing and restoration in your life.
She is an ordained minister, so she prayed a lot.
I told my husband, I told my best friend Laura, I said, listen guys, you might think I'm crazy, but I was in prayer. God spoke this to me. Your father's name is Gus.
Well, sure enough, in May of this year, after nearly a lifetime of wondering, her prayers were answered. There was a match to a cousin she never knew she had.
I reached out to this cousin and I said, we've just matched on 23andMe. And he said, I think you're my Uncle Gus's daughter. And I said, I think that too.
His name is Gus. Gus Nicholas, 92 years old. He lived in Richmond all his life. A bachelor who was never married, he was a retired ballroom dance instructor.
I prepared myself to find a grave, and I now found a person. And it was just absolutely mind-blowing. Couldn't believe that I had found a person.
Schroeds called him the very next day.
My heart was beating out of my chest. I was like, what is this going to be like? And is he going to accept me? Is he going to want to see me? When I found him, he was so excited to be found. He said, I woke up this morning and I was alone. Now this afternoon, I have a daughter, I have a son-in-law, I have 3 grandchildren, I have great-grandchildren. He said, I'm not alone in the world anymore. And I said, no, you're not. You're not.
Within a week, she was at Gus's bedside.
Well, I'm here.
I'm glad you're here.
I'm glad I'm here too.
As it turns out, just 4 months before they met, Gus had fallen at home. He was found lying on the floor. He could no longer care for himself. So the state placed him in a nursing home. And that's where they first met.
Gus would say to me, please don't let me die in here. Don't let me die in here. And I said, you know what? I'm going to make sure.
Yes, they are father and daughter, but still strangers, which makes what happened next absolutely remarkable. Deanna said to Gus, "Would you like to come and live with me?" To which Gus responded, "How soon can we go?" And so 56 years after she was adopted, and 75 short days after she first called him, Schroeds and her husband, Pastor Larry Schroeds, took Nicholas out of that nursing home and drove him to their home right outside Tampa, Florida.
Okay, you got the orange juice?
Yep.
They now provide for him full time. She cooks his meals, Greek he always prefers, and she feeds them to him. Her guest room is now his bedroom. There are the mementos that he asked her to bring from the Richmond home, his trophies, dancing shoes, favorite hat, and a picture from the good old days.
I love you so much.
92 years of memories are packed into this 80-square-foot room. It is just big enough for his hospital bed, but intimate enough for the conversations they have.
I knew your mother for 60-some years. I knew her.
Hi, Gus.
I even got a chance to say hello.
How does it feel to have your daughter find you?
It felt good.
Yeah?
I didn't find my daughter. My daughter found me.
She found you.
Yeah.
To the man who gave her life, she is prepared to give back to him until the end of his. She's asked just one thing of him. Will you tell me all about you?
It is the most worthwhile thing I've ever done in my life. It's the hardest thing. It's the most worthwhile thing. It's the most incredible miracle I've ever had the privilege to live out. Yeah, I'm living the dream.
Isn't that wonderful?
Yes.
We've got a story straight from the heart this morning. It came to us from our Houston affiliate, KHOU. A boy with autism, whose name is Carson, blew a bubble one day and gum popped all over his face. Bullies swarmed, his wrist was broken, and so was his heart. He suffered the kind of bullying that millions of other kids endure, some daily. But the world can be an incredibly generous place. I put out a call on social media looking for video game designers who jumped in quickly to help us make Carson feel special.
He loves me. We're best friends.
So this started as a story about what's wrong with the world, what's broken.
So I was walking home from the bus stop and a kid made me fall and I broke this.
Does it hurt your feelings that he did that?
Yeah, it sort of does.
Carson Thompson, a 13-year-old boy with autism, left with his arm in a sling. So I called Carson's mom and asked her, what is the one thing that would just set his soul on fire? And she said, well, if he could meet a video game designer, that's what he hopes to be one day. In fact, when he's not playing games, he's pacing through the backyard, planning for the games he'll create.
What did you tell him?
I didn't tell him anything.
What does he know so far?
He knows nothing.
On this day, he was in for a big surprise.
Video games are the highest form of art. You got art and music. In the future, I want to make games. I have a lot of ideas.
He had no idea that he was on his way to meet a team of designers who do just that.
Hey, Carson. Hey. Hi, Carson. Welcome to 6 Foot Studios. You know what we do here?
Make games?
We make games.
This place is awesome.
This is just the lobby.
Little swords.
There you go.
This is surreal.
That we had before. So
I can see
I just use those to be able to.
All the cogs are going in his mind. He's thinking.
Don't worry about bullies. Don't worry about any of those things, okay?
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
How was today for you?
Today was awesome. I'm pretty inspired. I think that I am going to make the best game ever created.
I like that. I like that attitude.
Love that.
Best video game yet.
And video games are a real high form of art. You can see him pacing, think through the story, the combination of creativity, the engineering, its narrative. Yeah. He's going to do something great.
You know, it's interesting. When we air stories like this on broadcast, we usually don't know what impact they'll have. But this thing we did a little differently. We posted Carson's story on social media first. And I got to tell y'all, the reaction was priceless. Let me share a little bit of it. Kaylee actually, wrote, "My son Carson is 11, same name Carson. He has ADHD and autism, and this touched my mama heart. The world needs more kindness like this." Katie commented, "I love this so much. This precious boy, these beautiful guys. I feel like my Grinchy heart got 2 sizes today." And there was a lot of support for Carson in his future. Joshua wrote, "The sky's the limit, Carson. Can't wait for the best game ever. I'll purchase it."
But the best part is what it did for Carson. That's what I like out of all this.
Yes.
To go through something and comes out on the other side.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, this came to us from our cameraman, Dwayne, who lives in Houston. He saw it and he sent it to me. And I called Carson's mom and I was like, "How's he doing?" And she's good. She said, "Good." And I said, "Has there been an outpouring of support?" And she said, "Well, people want to give him material things, but because of his autism, material things don't really matter to him." And I said, "Well, what would just throw him over the edge?" And she said, "To meet a video game designer." And I put out a call on social media, and instantly they started popping up. And 6 Foot Studios in Houston, thanks guys, within 48 hours opened the doors.
Wow. That's the positive side of social media.
Right?
Yes, there you go.
Isn't that great?
Yes.
That was awesome, David.
So, thanks, brother.
We need more of that, David Begnaud,
Yeah, we
the
do.
positive side.
Coming
of
up,
social media.
coming up.
As much as Gregory Hop tried, he was unable to outsmart time.
Hold my hand, never let it go.
His song 369 Loves of Mine was a tribute to his 3 children. It was written after he was diagnosed with colon cancer and told he had just months to live.
Tell me about that song. I listened to it and I love it.
So 369 is the ages of his kids, so Jane, Max, and Henry.
Yeah.
Henry being the oldest, and he just goes through and describes Heather. Sorry, they're each a love of his and why he loves them. Just a little about them.
What Greg didn't know when he wrote that song was that he and his wife Megan were both running out of time. Krista Lieber is Megan's twin sister.
What happened?
She just died suddenly. She was sitting on the couch with her brother-in-law, and all the kids were playing upstairs. And she just took her last breath and died.
4 months after Greg died from cancer, Megan died due to cardiac arrest. She was just 40 years old. She had an undiagnosed heart condition. Krista was tasked with telling her twin sister's children.
How did they react?
Henry had tears right away. I just told him, you know, we're just gonna be a bigger family now, and we're gonna be here for you, and I want you to know you're never gonna be alone, ever. You're gonna be taken care of.
Seemingly overnight, 40-year-old Krista and her 37-year-old husband Dave went from 3 children to 6, 1 dog to 2, and they did it all without even hesitating.
Can I have those? They're just one big gang, you know, the cousin crew.
Everything in this house comes in pairs now. The dogs, the twins.
Love that.
Yeah, everybody's
The
bumped
girls,
up.
the boys.
For Henry, who is now 11, the memory of his mom and dad is ever strong.
I used to have like long talks with like Daddy. We'd like walk and talk. Like, we'd just like talk about the future, like what will happen. Like it was nice and calm. And I miss most about Mommy. Just watching shows with her, talking to her, like mostly just talking, like the little things. I miss that.
It's been about 4 months since Megan died.
Okay, no toys up with you.
And Henry and his siblings are now easily settling into a life with their aunt, uncle, and cousins. And that's in part because of the community that swarmed in when their world came crashing down.
After Greg died and then after Megan died, there was this village of people, some strangers, right? Who came together and said what to you?
How can we help? What can we do?
Some people would do something as small as help with a cat. Other people donated lots of money. There was nothing too small and nothing too big, and it all added together to like be this kind of unified front of stability for the kids.
And because of that support, in the midst of insurmountable grief, there has been joy. The laughter of the children just being kids. Extended family all huddled together around a Thanksgiving table, decorating the Christmas tree, taking the new family Christmas photo.
Brady, can you say 2?
There have been lessons, too, for everyone, like making your health a priority. You see, shortly after Greg died, Dave was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease.
Had you been putting off how you were feeling for a while?
Yeah, I was feeling things and things were happening, and I just chalked it up to stress.
Then came Krista's health shock that she thought was stress.
You started feeling something funny.
I had been feeling palpitations and shortness of breath since either the pandemic or Greg's cancer diagnosis, both at the same time. But that's around when I started feeling it. And I thought, like my sister's, is just anxiety.
But after her twin sister died, Krista decided to get her heart checked, just in case.
And what did they tell you?
I have long QT syndrome, which is your heart has an electrical conductivity issue. It can cause sudden death, fainting, seizures. I told Dave my sister saved my life. You know, I say her death was not in vain. There's a bigger picture here.
And how old are the twins? One. Everything that this family has been going through reminds them that life is fragile. But with the help of a village and with unwavering love, life marches on because it has to. Because the alarm clock still goes off in the morning, the school bell still rings.
Watch out!
Beyond the grief, the Hop kids have found happiness in this home.
How would you describe the kids now?
I love them. I love them so much. They are really resilient.
They're okay.
They truly are. They're okay.
And no, we may not be able to outsmart time. But maybe it's not about that anyway.
Who's that?
Me. See how it looks like me?
Yeah. What is the takeaway from this story?
Don't wait for tomorrow to come. Be here in this moment.
Rely on the kindness of strangers when it comes. Thank goodness for counseling and the school's involvement and the kindness of these strangers and all the friends and family that have surrounded us and made us feel the love. Because these kids feel it too. We all do.
Here's my room.
Aha! Enter Madeline's world, and you come under the mystical spell of a mythical creature.
What is it that makes unicorns so special?
That their magical horn. It grants you magic wishes if you ask.
Yeah.
Double rainbows in the sky, magic purple butterflies.
At 7 years old, she is obsessed with unicorns.
They live in the magical forest of Scotland.
That fictional beast, so beloved and popular, is the real national animal of Scotland. In Celtic mythology, it is a symbol of purity, innocence, and power.
And have you been to Scotland?
No.
So what's the plan to get your unicorn?
Well, I'm going to take an airplane.
Okay.
And then I'm going to find the unicorn in the magical forest and bring it back on the airplane.
Madeline has been smitten with the unicorn since she was 3 years old and can tell you anything you want to know.
And what else is involved in taking care of it?
Making sure it sees rainbows, sunlight, and moonbeams. So I'm going to make the barn have a glass roof.
Back in November, Madeline told her mom, Leilani, that she wanted a real unicorn. So Mom suggested that Madeline learn the rules about owning a large animal by writing to the Los Angeles County Department of Animal Care and Control.
I would like permission if I could have a unicorn in my backyard if I could find one.
Now, Mom, there are things over the course of our life that we explore and come to understand. What's your intention sort of behind going through the process with Madeline?
Well, Madeline's a very curious little girl. Anything that she proposes, we want to encourage and support. So when she came up to me with this idea, I thought, okay, we can do this, but let's do it through the proper measures of seeing what's required to maintain such a large animal.
Enter Marcia Mayetta, the Director of Animal Care and Control for LA County. She got Madeline's letter, and she wrote her back.
The first requirement is that she comply with all county regulations about keeping animals, that she had to feed the unicorn watermelon at least once a week because that's their favorite treat. She had to polish the unicorn's horn at least once a month with a soft cloth.
And any sparkles or glitter used on the unicorn must be non-toxic and biodegradable. Of course. Well, after agreeing to follow those rules, Madeline visited the Animal Care Center on her 7th birthday to get her unicorn license, the first ever issued by LA County.
It is bigger than me.
I think the takeaway for parents is to support your children's dreams. You know, don't stifle them. I think it's really important that adults do that.
When LA County shared Madeline's story on social media, it went viral, touching hearts around the world.
I would just like to thank you for reducing me to a blubbering,
weeping mess when I read about your beautiful piece of kindness to Madeline. I'm a 6-foot, 240-pound piece of British meat who has seen his fair share of savagery and nastiness in the world. Animals and humans alike should be grateful as you make the world a better place.
We're just kind of riding on that wave of joy.
While our fascination with the unicorn goes back to ancient times, they are as popular as ever today.
And what's the takeaway for everybody who felt something from this story?
That there's really still a lot of that innocence and just pure joy still out there, and it's a lot of fun to follow.
Ooh, I have an idea. I'm going to go get a book to read to you.
After all, a child's imagination is boundless.
I think I've learned if you want something, then you have to ask for it. And to ask for it, you have to do something to ask for it.
I love it.
This is the first time that Yvonne White is going to see the home where her brother was treated like family.
Hi! How are you?
By a woman who rescued him.
Put it in perspective. You saved his life. You saved another human being's life.
During the blizzard last month in Buffalo, New York, Shakira Autry took action when others might be less willing.
What you did was just beautiful. Just beautiful.
I just did.
Yeah, but you know, he made him comfortable.
Yes.
He felt the love.
He was at my door banging. When I woke up, I heard, help, help.
It was Christmas Eve. Shakira looked out her window and saw that man struggling in the snow.
He keeps screaming, help, I don't know what to do. I feel so terrible.
It was 4 degrees outside.
He can't even walk, like the wind is so bad.
The wind was gusting 53 miles per hour. He had no gloves on, looked lost, and in pain. The 35-year-old and her boyfriend, Trent Alls Jr., took him in. 64-year-old Joey White has the mental capacity of a 10-year-old, according to his sister. He lives in a group home just a few blocks away from Shakira's home. That morning, Joey left home headed for a movie theater where he's worked as a custodian for 40 years. It's unclear how long he lingered in the cold.
He was so frozen. His clothing was completely froze.
What were his fingers like?
They were it was balled up with the bag in his hand. I told him, I walked him through, I said, I have to cut the bag because the bag was froze. He had ice, literally ice balls around his hand.
After bandaging his severely frostbitten hands, Shakira called 911 again and again, but the weather conditions made it impossible for first responders to reach them.
I was waiting for the National Guards, and I still was waiting for 911, paramedics, fire. I was waiting for anybody, and nobody ever came.
As the hours passed, the snow just kept piling up. So Joey spent Christmas with Shakira, Trent, and their kids. She did his laundry, fed him, even played movies for him.
We got to get some help.
All the while, his hands were literally changing color, and the pain was becoming unbearable.
I was thinking, if there's going to take them this long to come and get him, and he's alive, how long is it going to take him to come and get a dead body if he was to pass? I couldn't wrap my head around, I just couldn't do it. This young man's fingers is going to fall off.
On Christmas night, she turned to social media, panicking.
I had to use these to cut the ring off of his finger. I'm not no surgeon. I'm right here, Joe.
About 36 hours after their ordeal began,
I thank these men for helping.
two Good Samaritans answered her plea.
Yeah, we all love you. We right here with you. You hear me? Because what you tell me, I'm your friend, right? We're friends, right? We're friends forever.
And drove them to the hospital.
When I got in the truck, he told me he was scared, and I said, I'm scared too. I'm scared too, Joey. And I said, you know, we got help. We're gonna go. The doctors are gonna take care of you. And then when he told me he loved me, I knew he really felt safe. This man could have died. 64 years old, could have died outside. I wasn't letting that happen on my watch, and he wasn't gonna die in front of my kids.
What do you think the takeaway is?
I feel that especially nowadays, the way our country is, everything is just, you know, the weather is terrible, this is terrible. And then to see the compassion and the love with two strangers is just amazing. So you tell me where the connection is. It's here. It's not here.
Bingo.
It's clear.
We got him to the emergency room.
In the spirit of that first Christmas, more than 2,000 years ago, Shakira Autry made room in her home and in her heart for that stranger in need.
I'm right here.
When you think back on it all, what makes you emotional?
I knew he needed help. And I just kept thinking about, what if it was my family member? Christmas wasn't even about the gifts, about my kids. It wasn't. It was literally him. Christmas was him. He was a very good Christmas gift. And now, for the rest of my life, I will remember him.
What would you say to people watching this who will encounter something down the road?
People should be kind, be loving.
We'll take a lesson from you. So thank you.
You're welcome.
I didn't want to do this story and have you look like a fish in a fishbowl that we were just looking at.
Okay. And I appreciate that, because respect is a good starting point.
Meet Cashman Whiteley.
You have had an incredible amount of kindness shown your way.
Here lately, I sure have. And I am grateful for every bit of it.
Whiteley has no home, but for the past few weeks, he's been sleeping here at the home of Carmen Flores and her partner, Tatiana Guerrero. They had seen him on the street, looking really sick and sleeping in front of a church.
On a cement cold slab, and the church didn't open its doors. I was like, okay, if our institutions aren't doing it, then we have to do something.
As a young man, Whiteley traveled America working carnivals.
Yeah, see here, peanut butter.
Money, he says, was always tight. And after a divorce, the life of this father of three spiraled. In 2000, he landed in Southern California.
Didn't have money to rent a place to live. I didn't have, a way to get started. So I simply wound up on the sidewalk.
Could you find a job?
No. After 10 years with the carnival, I have no verifiable job references. I have no address, and at the time, no phone number. No, the employers they have their standards, and I'm below it. I have been told, go away. No, you can't have a job application because you're homeless.
And how does that feel, Cash?
Actually, if I hear it one more time, I'm going to melt down, because it's wrong. Because if I'm actually a human being, I should have the same chances as everybody else.
The 59-year-old avoids homeless shelters.
I have ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. I am not accepted by other homeless people. I don't drink, I don't use drugs. I'm different than they are.
This is the story about how a group of people in Claremont, California, who did not know each other, stepped up to help him, and in the process, they saved his life. Starting with Flores and Guerrero, who housed him and fed him.
Jesus left us this sacrament.
Jessie Smith is a part of that group too. She is pastor of St. Ambrose Episcopal Church, where Whiteley showers twice a week and attends services. Pastor Smith, who along with her husband has taken Whiteley to multiple doctor's appointments,
says he gets offended when people don't treat him as if he matters.
I saw it over and over, going to the emergency rooms with him, calling the paramedics, having the police call him on him here or there or wherever. He's not seen as a human. He was seen as a nuisance.
Whiteley had been ignoring a growth on the left side of his face until the pain became unbearable.
It was so bad that I just screamed uncontrollably. I mean, literally, at the top of my lungs. Then people would call the police, and the idea was get rid of him. They would take me to the clinic. The clinic would send me to a dermatologist. The dermatologist would just say, well, just put this cream on it or take these antibiotics, which weren't working. And then I'd be screaming again, and this went on for a year.
Dr. David Begnaud is a retired pathologist who met Whiteley on the street. He called some of those agencies that were giving him the runaround.
I kept calling, and it eventually threatening. And
what makes you emotional?
Well, seeing somebody suffer like that in front of everybody, and nobody was taking any initiative. Nobody cared about him.
He tried to get something done. Now, for that, I can say that he has tried to be a good friend.
The diagnosis was skin cancer. He wanted immunotherapy, but his Medicaid insurance plan didn't cover that. So that's when counselors at City of Hope, a comprehensive cancer center, gave him just that, hope. They helped him to change his insurance so that he would qualify for the care he wanted. Flores and Guerrero, who both work in the healthcare industry, went with him to advocate for him.
So this is much better.
That immunotherapy is working wonders.
How do you feel?
Well, I feel a lot better than I did 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago, I feel like I was dying, and I probably was.
If you ask him how he feels about Flores and Guerrero,
I think they saved my life because they probably did.
So much changed in your life just in those 3 weeks you were with them?
It's only because of one thing. They really do care. Reverend Jessie Smith, she really cares. My friend Dr. David Begnaud really cares.
Why don't we end this with me giving you a hug?
Why not?
Okay. Come on.
With people like these in my life, I've got to land on my feet. I could actually see a much brighter future.
It's in good shape?
Oh, you better believe it only has 82,000 miles on it.
well, that future got even brighter. Back in January, Flores and Guerrero took him to look at a vehicle, and he liked it.
We ask that it be something that help him in his journey moving forward.
An anonymous donor gave Pastor Smith the money for Whiteley to buy it.
In the name of the Father, and the Son,
And the very next day, some members of the congregation were there when it was blessed.
How much money do you have now?
I got about $20 and 3/4 of a tank of gas. Not too bad.
Where are you sleeping?
I'm slipping back into the car right now. You know, it's because I'm still in transition phase.
Right now, he is convinced that better days are ahead for him. And it is partly because of those people who showed him that he matters.
A month ago, it was like, you know, will somebody just hurry up and pull the plug on me and just get it over with? You know, because I was just exhausted. I can see myself getting better now.
Yeah,
I can see myself getting back to doing some type of meaningful work. You know, and that I find very hopeful.
We met Cash 5 weeks ago, and I am happy to report that as of today, the skin on the left side of his face is healing wonderfully. I took him to lunch last weekend, and I also took this picture. A big old smile on his face.
It all started with this TikTok. It makes me so sad to see my parents just wait for customers to walk through the door at their Vietnamese restaurant. Jennifer Lee posted that back in January, along with some reviews.
And it's like my favorite. It's so good.
Of her favorite dishes from her family's restaurant.
And we give a lot of portions too. So good, so good.
In Santa Rosa, California.
Just come check us out. I really hope to see you guys there. Thank you.
Lee's Noodle House has been open for 20 years. But financial trouble started in 2017 when the deadly Tubbs fire, then the largest wildfire in California history, devastated Santa Rosa. Their building survived, but left the Lee family out of business for a month. Then there was the pandemic. Their dining room was forced to close for 6 months. To-go food only. Jennifer's father is Vuong Lee.
Basically, we cannot afford to hire employees. So hard, so we have to hang in tight, and just me and my wife, and just hang there and try to survive.
Lee and his wife cook the food. They serve it too, and their children help when they can. Jennifer, a grad student in Southern California, thought maybe my TikToks will go viral, and that might help the family business.
So this is our Yelp review. If you guys can take photos of your food and upload it, it would really help my parents' business. So thank you guys all so much for the support and love. Thank you.
It worked. More than 1 million people viewed her first video. And you know what happened after that?
I was shocked to see how many people were here.
Almost immediately, new customers were walking through the door, packing into the tiny 50-seat restaurant. Heck, even the longtime customers couldn't believe it.
It's a little too crowded for me at the moment.
So much so that Jennifer ended up flying home to Northern California just so she could help her parents serve the food.
Wow, the power of social media is like insane.
Okay, come with me to Lee's Noodle House.
When Erica Altis saw Jennifer's TikTok, she activated her own audience of more than 100,000 people on Instagram to help. But first, she took her family to eat at Lee's so they could try the food.
I realized I live less than 2 miles from this place, and so I decided to call on my audience, because I have a big local following, and ask them if they would like to contribute to a larger tip after I'm done with my meal and pay for my meal and pay for my tip.
The meal was
So delicious, so fresh. The bun was perfection. You've got to go here. The best part, though, are these guys, the owners.
The tip ended up being...
I ended up raising $2,000 to give to the family for their restaurant. You know, my community did that for them.
How is it being a local, being someone who likes to contribute to the conversation locally, to watch the goodness that has come about for this restaurant from strangers thanks to social media?
I know, it's incredible, because not only did people donate near and far to go towards the tip, but people, you know, came in for lunch, and they're continuing to come, which is so cool to see that there's so much momentum still behind it. And it wasn't just like one solid weekend of business, it's been weeks of business, which is, I think, you know, changed their entire business from closing and being able to stay open, which is incredible.
It's no secret I love the food.
Oh,
so your favorite thing's still the pot stickers?
I think so, but I mean, I would eat everything.
Mr. Lee served us and everyone else that day. His wife was back in the kitchen cooking, and that's where I first met them.
Oh, hello, David.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Thank you for coming.
That donation from Altis is going to help the Lee family start making some improvements around here.
Be honest with you, that money is going to help like fix the AC, central air conditioner, buy a new ice machine. Let's carry on, because my ice machine broke down, my central air broke down, so hopefully I use that money to repair this summer.
Meanwhile, if you're ever in Santa Rosa and you can't get a seat, there's always takeout. And this takeaway.
I think it just gives you kind of a restored faith in humanity, right? I think with so much going on in the world that people want some good news, and we need to get it more into the mix. So I love that you guys are doing this and you're highlighting this, because it may make people do this in their own communities and try to support restaurants in their own communities or any business in their community that's struggling. And so I think that's the takeaway, is one small act can go a far way.
To that.
Yeah.
It's just to bring so much love and joy to my family, because without the people from community, I don't know if I can survive.
And to think it all started with a daughter just trying to give back to her own family. Since Jennifer posted that video, revenue, she says, is up 30 to 40%. If you look at the Yelp reviews online, it's good. 4.5 stars, nearly 300 reviews. And take it from me, who was eating like a pig on camera, that's some tasty food.
We did notice that, David. Patty said smaller bites, David, smaller bites.
So we all wanted to be there. A couple of those buns, those pot stickers look great.
Eric Larson is packing for a trip he never thought he'd make. A journey to the North Pole. It's not the destination that he assumed was out of reach. He's been to the North Pole 6 times already.
North Pole!
What's incredible
is that he's able to travel again at all. You see, back in 2021, the 51-year-old Larson was diagnosed with colon cancer. He says the doctors told him it was terminal.
Hearing that news and trying to think about what those few years would be like with my family and my young kids was, to say it was difficult is the extreme understatement.
But the prognosis was wrong. The cancer was survivable, though the treatment was debilitating. 6 rounds of chemotherapy, radiation, and 14 inches of his colon removed.
What was your lowest point during the cancer?
I mean, how much time do you have? There are so many low points. When I had surgery to remove the cancerous area of my colon, I had a very difficult recovery. I was on oxycodone. I was in bed. I couldn't sleep. And I would wake up in the middle of the night and just try to walk around the room. I could barely get out of bed. It was so much pain.
Larson always had a major advantage on most people because years of adventure taught him how to survive in the harshest conditions. He is, after all, one of the world's leading polar explorers. In 2006, he and a partner did the first ever summer expedition to the North Pole. In 2010, he became the first person to journey to the North Pole, the South Pole, and Mount Everest in the same year.
Long day, cold wind. I think with the wind chill it was close to 60 below.
How many times have you almost died doing this?
I've fallen through the ice. I've been stalked by polar bears. I've been in a lot of very precarious situations over the years. And you get a little bit of a gallows humor with that, you know, in the sense like, oh, that was close. Let's just keep going.
The cancer is what grounded him. One of the chemo drugs diminished what he calls his superpower, the ability to withstand cold.
Opening the refrigerator to putting a glass of cool water to my lips and have intense pins and needles instantly impact whatever area that cold was touching was debilitating. And I live in a cold environment too, so it's not just about opening the refrigerator, but it's going outside, like actually getting to the chemo treatment was a major obstacle.
Still, though, he never lost his passion for polar exploration, even though he calls it one of the most boring sports.
What is it about going to the extreme that really does it for you?
What I do is just part of who I am. I don't wake up in the morning and say, oh, why am I going to do this? I just do it. And so it's just how I was built.
What makes it boring, though?
You're traveling across a big, vast, white nothingness. Oftentimes, you know, I've spent days and weeks in conditions where the visibility is like being on the inside of a ping pong ball. You can't even see the horizon.
But now he's looking clear across that horizon, back to adventure and back to the North Pole.
I get the notion of doing this before you have cancer. But after you survive cancer, why put your body through that again?
That's a good question. And it's one that I'm wrestling with, quite honestly. I don't like being away from my family as much anymore. But to be able to go back to a place that has been such an important part of my life, to see it again when I thought I would never do anything again, for me, feels like the right thing to do.
This time, he's headed to the North Pole as a guide to show others what most of us will never get to experience. You see, we can't all relate to his record-setting life, but we can relate to pain and newfound perspective.
I'm talking to a man who set out to explore some of the far-flung places of the earth, but am I also looking at a man who's still searching to find himself?
Yeah. You know, I used to go on these trips and I thought if I could do the hardest thing for as long as I could, I would have an epiphany where it all came clear that I would know everything. And what I've realized is that's never going to happen. I'm still looking for the answers that I know I'll never find, but the search has value and the effort has value in my mind, and coming back has value.
When Bradley Arrowwood first came to train my dog, it sent me on a very unexpected journey.
When you killed your victim, you were how old?
23.
He was, by his own admission, a hardcore Los Angeles biker who killed a man he said had had an affair with his wife.
You lured him to a house, you beat him, you duct taped him, and he suffocated because of that.
That and a broken nose, yes.
And I was honest with you. And I said, had I known the facts before you came here, I wouldn't have had you here.
You wouldn't have called.
And I thought, well, here's my opportunity to actually live the walk. I talked the second chance talk, but can I walk it?
There are so many people that come back out or could come back out that educate themselves, and they don't get the same breaks I got.
The breaks he got led to a successful service dog training business, thanks to his own decision to change.
I, Jerry Brown.
And someone else changed too. Jerry Brown commuted Arrowwood's life sentence in 2017.
But he earned it. He was certainly, the record was very impressive.
Jerry Brown, now retired and living on his Northern California ranch, knows about second chances.
And let me just add up to you.
But when he was elected as the nation's youngest governor in 1974, he was very tough on crime.
He passed the first mandatory sentencing law in the state that then led to a lot more of those laws being passed.
President of the Alliance for Safety and Justice, Lenore Anderson, advocates for criminal justice reform.
Many people are really not aware of the history of the movement for tough on crime. It originated here in California.
The result of that was from 12 prisons that existed when Reagan was governor, we went, after I left, to 33 prisons. So we went from about 25,000 people in prison to 170,000.
That legacy Jerry Brown left when his first term ended in 1983 directly affected Bradley Arrowwood when he was sentenced 10 years later to life in prison with no possibility of parole.
I had a death sentence, basically, death by incarceration.
The crime was almost 30 years ago, and talking about it like we are now makes you feel how?
Lost still.
Lost why?
I lived a lifestyle feeding off fear, hatred.
And what has changed?
What really hit home was 7 years into my sentence, finding out I had a daughter that was placed in the foster care system. She was told that I don't love her, don't want her, and hurt people for a living. She's 7. I never even knew about her.
How did you find your purpose in prison?
Trying to do better for my daughter. I wanted her to not be ashamed at who I was. I had to be an example, even though there was no chance of me getting out. I wasn't able to tell her that I wasn't getting out, ever, because I didn't want to destroy any hope that she had.
But why? You were never going to get out.
Because I didn't want her to be able to say that her dad was a failure.
Then, in 2010, Jerry Brown was elected California's governor again. By then, he wanted to undo the heavy sentencing laws he had championed as a young governor.
When you were governor the second time, it wasn't just sort of your morality and your conscience that led you to think we need to give people a second chance. You also have the federal courts telling you your prisons are overpopulated and you've got to reduce that.
Yes, that was a big nudge. Without the federal court, it would have been very hard to do as much as we did.
By then, California's bulging prisons included 4,000 inmates who had no possibility of parole, including Arrowwood, who had become a model prisoner and was given a new opportunity.
Specifically, the program was to train dogs to be service dogs.
No, not originally. It was just to give dogs a second chance. Dogs that were in high-kill shelters, like we were in prison, to give them a second chance at being adoptable.
The prison's program was fittingly called Paws for Life.
Those dogs gave us back our humanity. It brought emotion back into prison. But to come back out here, if it hadn't been for the dogs, I wouldn't have been able to function.
Dog training was also a prized program of the warden, who recommended that Arrowwood's sentence be reviewed by the governor, the only man who had the power and now the conviction to commute an inmate's sentence.
In commuting your sentence, Brown didn't free you. Brown just said,
No.
I will give you the opportunity
to prove yourself to my board.
When he faced the parole board in 2018, the Los Angeles County District Attorney objected to his release, saying his offense was especially heinous and his history of abuse of drugs makes him an unreasonable risk. Still, though, members of the parole board unanimously agreed to release him, saying he had a good background to succeed on the outside. By then, he had served 25 years in prison.
When I say the name Jerry Brown,
it's a miracle.
Ever met him?
No, I haven't.
Want to?
I would love to.
So we invited him to travel with us.
Good to meet you, Woody. Come on by.
To meet the man who had the biggest impact on giving him a second chance.
So, Woody, how are you feeling?
Kind of amazed. I had a million things written in my mind, but I don't even know how to say how much thanks and gratefulness for you taking a chance.
Had you applied before?
No.
So you just...
There was never any hope.
Tell the governor what you've done with your life since you got out.
When I first got out, I went to a transition home to adjust after 25 years. From there, I attended Cal State LA as a full-time student and graduated with a bachelor's degree in organizational and applied communications. I got married to a girl I've known since 8 years old. Started my dog training business.
You got any ideas on what we ought to be doing with our prisons?
Well, I think we need to kind of go back a step to where it used to be, that people get a chance to earn their way out, not necessarily just get let out without any skills or being able to move on and go right back to what they knew before.
Was granting commutations in some way cathartic for you?
You know, I was in the seminary for 4 years. I'm very sympathetic to redemption. I wouldn't say it was a cathartic process. It was a very intensive process.
Everybody, yes.
Before we left, there was another opportunity for some behavior corrections.
What? Yes. Come.
For the governor's own dog.
Yes.
We could train this dog in no time.
Yes. I can do wonders in a couple of weeks.
While Arrowwood's dog training business continues to thrive, thanks to dog owners willing to take risks on him.
He's so happy to see you.
The risks that he has taken has led him to be the father he never was, to the daughter he hardly knew. She is now 29 years old, with a son. They are a whole family, living a second chance.
Everybody hopes somewhere in the back of their mind that they can be good, that we're not all bad. That little bit of investment in somebody gives a person a lot of incentive to go a long way.
Bradley Arrowwood has not reoffended ever since he got out of jail 5 years ago. He's never been rearrested, and he is now off of parole.
We met Madeline Quinn on a chilly, drizzly morning in Southern California and quickly found out there is nothing that's going to dampen this girl's spirit when she's out on the golf course.
What I like about it is whenever I hit a driver, I just like feel pumped up and I'm ready, and I just like really like the challenge.
Do you feel like golf is your passion?
Yes.
It's your calling?
Yes, I love it.
Madeline first picked up a club at 2, starting with a toy, but quickly moving to the irons.
The love of the game has grown, the passion has grown, and now I get to teach the little girl I love more than anything in the world.
She has a great built-in teacher and dad and caddy all in one.
Her dad, a former PGA pro, started showing Maddie videos of Tiger Woods golfing as a child and says that's what inspired her.
This is the Girls Junior Club Championship trophy.
There it is.
Yeah.
There it is, Madeline Quinn.
Whenever I have a tournament, my dad always says, "What's the goal today?" And I say to have the most fun out here.
You love doing it more than anything else.
Yes.
To go along with that unstoppable smile is a heart that is something of a modern miracle. You see, Madeline was born with what's called a ventricular septal defect, a hole in her heart.
She could not gain weight. Her breathing was very, very rapid.
Madeline underwent 3 open heart surgeries as doctors tried to fix her tiny heart.
It was the hardest thing I've ever had to go through. And then it kept getting worse and worse and worse.
At 18 months old, Maddie was put on a transplant list. A complicating factor was that doctors said she needed a bigger heart to maintain function, perhaps from a 5-year-old. Well, 4 months later, they got the call. A perfect match had been found. The surgery was a success. And for the first time, little Maddie had rosy cheeks and even an appetite.
All right, so this heart's doing well for you.
Yeah, and I just had my 8th heart birthday.
Oh, you have heart birthdays.
Yeah.
I love that.
I've been living my best life. I'm so happy and thankful.
Madeline wanted me to feel the joy she says she gets from golfing. And she told me I needed the proper attire. So I asked if she could help me out.
You look amazing, baby.
Oh, this is it?
Yeah.
With a 9-year-old driving, on we went.
I don't even know where it went.
So much for this guy's golf dreams.
Look at the look on her face.
But Dad wants Maddie to continue to live hers.
Drive for show?
Fredo.
She wanted to see Tiger play in person. So Dad bought the tickets and Maddie made a bucket list poster. Heart transplant, check. Meet Tiger Woods and play at Augusta. Every golfer's dream. Well, as luck would have it, Tiger's caddy spotted Maddie's sign, and he whispered something to Woods.
And Tiger looked, he read it, and took out a Sharpie, signed his glove, and then came toward me with a pen, and he checked the box and gave me the glove. Tiger!
Oh my goodness.
I'm usually really polite, but he handed me the glove, and my dad said, "Say thank you," and I'm like, "Thank you?"
When he signs it and walks away, what were you thinking?
I was thinking, wow, that really just happened. I really just met the best golfer in the world.
Oh, these are golf medals.
Yeah, these are my tournament medals that I won.
And her prized possession.
That's his signature.
Wow, girl. All right.
Yeah, we're gonna frame it.
And about that final item on her bucket list, someone close to Augusta spotted her story on social media and invited her to the Masters.
It was just so special that I got to go there. It was just so green, beautiful. I wanted to go back on the airplane and get my clubs and then fly back and play all 18 holes.
While play was suspended at times due to rain, Madeline says she didn't mind getting wet because she was focused on the golf.
I was just like picturing me like swinging like them, and I'm like, I could be as good as them or even better one day.
Pushing through adversity from the very beginning is what seems to have given young Madeline a sensitivity that transcends her age.
I tell my story to make people feel happy and not so stressed out.
So you're happy to share it?
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
And in first place with Madeline Quinn.
Her parents say they will never forget the kindness of strangers, especially that family who gave their young daughter her heart.
There is hope. There is some good that can come from everything.
Think of being a parent and saying, we want to give someone else life. And Maddie got to live.
A lot of gratitude.
So grateful. It's beyond words.
It was 1956. Elvis was playing on the jukebox. Ike and Mamie were in the White House. And Caroline and Eddie, well, they were in love.
Oh, I just thought he was the cutest boy on campus, you know.
And once I saw her, it was all over.
Eddie Lamb was earning 65 cents a day, delivering the Nashville Tennessean, the newspaper that would one day tell their love story.
When I took her out, all I could do was Coke and French fries, and that was about it.
That's the only meal he ever bought me was French fries and a Coke.
Known around town as Eddie's girl, Caroline Reeves wasn't looking for a fancy dinner. She had her eyes set on his high school class ring and all that it would signify.
It was an engagement ring, and I was the type of person that would have committed myself to him for the rest of my life with that ring.
When you didn't get the high school ring?
It was just really broke my heart. And I just thought he just didn't care enough about me.
And what came of that?
Well, not a whole lot.
Whose fault was that?
That was probably mine.
Look at y'all.
And I made all of the dresses.
Eddie set his sights high, joining ROTC at the University of Tennessee in Knoxville with dreams of flying planes in the U.S. Air Force. It was her senior year in high school, and Eddie couldn't find the words to tell a proper goodbye to Caroline. So he didn't.
We pulled up in her driveway, and I said, "May I kiss you?" And so I kissed her goodnight then, not knowing that that's the last time I would kiss her in 64 or 65 years.
And I got out of that car and ran up the steps and slammed the door and went upstairs and cried all night. That was it.
Their lives would follow far different paths. She became Miss Nashville, 1959. 2 years later, they were married to other people. She to Charles Wallace, he to Polly Piper. Eddie would go on to serve 21 years flying KC-135s for the United States Air Force. Caroline traveled the world. She was an interior designer, a magazine writer, and wrote 3 novels. Things changed in December 2021. Eddie's wife, Polly, the mother of their 2 children, died from ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease. They'd been married 2 days shy of 60 years.
I heard you were her caretaker.
Yes, I was for about a year and a half to 2 years.
It's just shows you his strength and how sweet and kind and gentle this man is.
After her marriage to Charles Wallace ended in the 80s, Caroline married a man named George Kennedy. He died in 2001.
Over the course of your life, did you wonder how Eddie was?
All the time. All the time.
Eddie, did you wonder how she was?
Yes, I did.
In April 2022, Eddie was living in California, Caroline in Nashville.
And all at once, something hits me. I said, I've got to call her.
I had 9 calls, and I don't answer unsolicited calls.
Eddie, you called 9 times.
9 times. Yeah, I'm not going to give up.
I love it.
Yeah, not going to give up.
Just what she wanted to hear.
That third night, he told me he still loved me, and I knew my life had changed.
He flew to Nashville to see her. This time, she was in the driver's seat.
And I heard you didn't make it too far from the airport.
No. He peeked his head into my car, and he took my breath away. I've never seen anything like it in my entire life. I just can't even explain it. So I got out of the parking lot, zoom, went around and found the FedEx parking lot. And it was the warehouse. It was closed at night, and they had all these security lights. And I got out and jumped around, and we hugged and kissed. And I remember looking up at the security lights, and insects were swirling all around.
The FedEx lights. Wow.
So FedEx does deliver.
At the age of 84, Eddie popped the question.
He said, well, we'll get you a ring. And I said, no, this is what I want. And he put this on my finger. And that's his high school class ring.
That you wanted 60 years ago.
It's my engagement ring.
And the girl got it.
Yeah, I love it. I love you.
Her dream came true.
If you had to title your story, what would it be?
Miraculous. That we found our love again. We ask God all the time, why did you do this? And now we know to take care of each other.
Good morning.
Good morning. Here is your ticket.
Where are we going? Oh, Providence, Rhode Island. That should be fun. 9:30 flight.
So once I knew where we were going, I had to get there and find a story in just 48 hours.
Have a good day. Thanks, you too. Wish us luck. Here we go.
And to kick things off, after I landed in the city that is known for its art and food scenes, my team surprised me with a little adventure.
Hi.
Very nice to meet you, sir.
Very nice to meet you.
Marcello the gondolier.
David, nice to meet you.
Who knew you could take a gondola ride in Providence? But hey, let's go.
Santa Lucia.
I don't know what the heck they said, but that was beautiful. What is Providence treasured for?
Our founder, Roger Williams, founded a settlement where anybody who wasn't welcome anywhere else was welcome here.
We felt that walking around Providence. David Begnaud, nice to meet you.
David Beckham.
No, that's the soccer player. Begnaud.
Oh, Beckham.
Begnaud. I'm looking for a story.
You are.
Yes, ma'am. And Greg Stevens has a lot of stories. As the 4th generation owner of Olneyville, New York system, which boasts Rhode Island's best hot wieners. Okay, so it's a German sausage topped with meat sauce, mustard, onion, and celery salt. Woo! Being the picky eater that I am, I was a little hesitant. But hey, Steven said, try it.
There's a lot of flavors in there.
Keeping it the same, that's our secret.
Now, before I boarded the flight in New York, I posted on social media asking people, hey, you got any story ideas for us? Send. And there were hundreds of people who responded saying, cooking con Omi, or cooking with Omi. So I said to my team, hey, you want to go by her house and surprise her? Hello, Omi.
Oh my gosh!
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Surprise! She had already heard on social media that we were in town looking for a story. And naturally, she started cooking. She gave us that Puerto Rican favorite, tostones with a little ceviche.
Thank you.
She's become popular for cooking on TikTok, and it all started with an Instagram post at the height of the pandemic.
I was at the grocery store. I was in the parking lot. It's where I often went to go cry because we were struggling. And I said, I'm gonna go in here and I'm gonna get what I need and I'm gonna go home and I'm gonna cook. On that very day, I turned on my camera and I said, anybody wanna cook with me? I'm lonely.
Since then, Omi built an online community, cooking right from her kitchen. It earned her a spot on the 2nd season of the TV show Next Level Chef.
It made me feel like I was supposed to be doing what I was doing.
I just love when people find their purpose. Well, another bite down, more to come. So we headed for Federal Hill. That's the Little Italy section of Providence, to see who we'd meet next.
I love a meatball.
And then this happened.
Car's right here.
When I left the Italian food market, I noticed a man who was helping a woman who was clearly struggling to walk. So I offered to help them.
I'm Mitchell. Your name?
David Begnaud with CBS
David,
News.
pleasure.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
So we're actually in town looking for a story. What do you do for a living?
I'm a watchmaker.
A watchmaker?
A watchmaker, yes.
I don't feel like I've ever met a watchmaker. Mitchell and his mother were in the valet parking zone, and I didn't want to hold them up, so we said our goodbyes.
Thank you so much.
All right,
Take care.
take care.
Good evening.
So as Mitchell and his mom drove away that day, I kept thinking about him. Something about the way he spoke, his articulation and diction, and I thought, I wonder what this guy's backstory is. I had given him my number, and sure enough, about 5 minutes later, he texted me.
And based on what he said in that conversation, I told him, Mitchell, we want to make you our story. And the timing was perfect. So first of all, nice to see you again.
You as well.
I mean, the way we met is wild.
It was serendipitous.
Oh, you think so?
I think so. Meant to be.
Mitchell invited us into his workshop here at Providence Diamond. I learned that Mitchell Thompson is part of a small and elite group of Rolex certified watchmakers in the United States. And he's just 25 years old. Mitchell masters the craft of both repairing and rebuilding luxury watches. Who gave you your first watch?
My mother.
How old were you?
I was 8 or 9, and she said, well, you're going back to school, you need to know how to tell the time with hands, no digital watch.
He now owns 25 watches. And it turns out studying languages was his first love. Luxury watches came next. He enrolled in watchmaking school in Pennsylvania, fully funded by Rolex, with only 11 students in the graduating class. What is it that you love about watches?
I love innovation, and I love the cultural significance of the watch.
What is the specialty that a watchmaker possesses?
Passion. If you don't love this, there's no place in this business for you. You have to love it.
Why?
It's very similar to the focus you have when you thread a needle. You have to do something over and over and over again. Biggest example is a loose screw in a watch. And you're checking every single one every time. And if you miss one, that can stop the watch.
You know, 50 years ago, Rolex says there were more than 30,000 watchmakers across the country. Today, there are less than 2,000, and we just happen to run into one of them.
So what is your takeaway from this experience, meeting us, telling your story, being the one who we decided we wanted to tell the story about?
Well, I find it a reinforcement for a belief I've always held, in that things have a way of finding their place, and it never hurts to ask, "Hi, what's your name?" because you never know where it leads.
As you did, and I'm glad you did.
Well, thank you.
So thank you.
Of course.
It's been a pleasure.
You as well.
You know, in 2 decades of telling stories, I've learned that random encounters can lead to some pretty meaningful moments. You just have to be willing to lean into it, time and time again.
I literally would stay up at night and pray to God that one day I would go to college and leave all of this trauma behind and start a new life for myself. I was like, I'm going to be that. I'm going to be a news anchor.
It's not that Aziza Shuler didn't have the talent to be on camera. It's that she spent most of her television career doing it with a secret.
I just thought, okay, that's something that I'm going to keep buried forever.
That secret is alopecia. Diagnosed at just 12 years old with the autoimmune disease, all of her hair fell out as a child, and from then on, she hid it.
I wear a wig every day, personally and professionally.
But in September, during Alopecia Awareness Month, she broke the news to the viewers of CBS News Philadelphia, who know her as a weekend anchor.
I would spend hours in the mirror, meticulously styling my hair so that my wig would appear as natural as possible. But I'm tired. I'm tired of hiding. I'm tired of living in fear. And that starts with living without my wig.
How is that to watch it back now?
It still makes me emotional.
Does it?
Yeah. Emotional in a different way, though. I can't believe I harbored so much fear and anxiety about revealing this secret that no longer is a secret now.
It was her boyfriend, Vaughn Pohl, who encouraged her to expose her truth.
We were about to go to the gym, and he's just like randomly, "So are you gonna take your wig off?" I think I felt like I was waiting for him to ask me that question. I don't know why.
And so when he did, what did you respond with?
I think I just said, okay. And I took it off, and he's like, okay, now let's go outside. I looked at him, and I was like, no. At that time, I'd never been outside bald.
Ever in your life?
No, I
Never outside?
Never went outside. I didn't know how it would feel for the wind or air to hit my bald scalp. I didn't know.
When was the moment where you felt some relief?
When a woman stopped me and said, "Girl, you look beautiful." And then another man stopped and said, "Sister, you rocking that bald head." And then someone else stopped me and was like, "I love your haircut." Literally, within maybe a mile, these people gave me affirmations that they didn't even know I needed.
The city of Reading is looking for a new police chief.
But still, at work, Shuler continued to hide behind the arsenal of hair pieces.
Did you think you could be an anchor today, bald?
No, because I didn't see other anchors who were bald. I didn't see women on TV who were bald.
She realized that the only way to liberate herself personally would be to reveal herself publicly. So she told her general manager, Kelly Frank, and news director, Kathleen Giroux, the very personal reason she wanted to do a story about alopecia.
And I said, well, I really want to do the story because I have alopecia and I'm bald and I no longer want to wear wigs.
You weren't really going to ask for permission.
No, I wasn't.
Wow.
But I was fortunate that I work with women who are my cheerleaders, who are uplifting, who were ready to see something like this on their television screen.
We sat down and everything was, whatever you want to do. Let's tell your story.
A beautiful woman inside and out.
The public unveiling was such a triumphant moment for a woman who was born into trauma.
You were born inside of a jail.
Yes. Yes. My mother was in jail for theft.
Shuler says both of her parents battled drug addiction. By 5 years old, she and her 6 siblings were living in the foster care system. There, she says she was physically and sexually abused.
What do you think when you see that girl on the left right there?
I see someone who doesn't really know how beautiful she is.
That little girl went on to compete in pageants and graduate from St. John's University.
A thief simply walked up to this Ford F-150.
She got her first job in television in Yuma, Arizona, before eventually making her way to Philadelphia, where the telling of her story has been so telling.
In the newsroom and conversation, she just seems so much more relaxed, much more comfortable in her own skin.
When I think about how far I've come, it makes me emotional.
Her story, picked up nationally, has impacted women like Jamie Flack, who wrote to Shuler.
Mine was totally hormone monthly, had the hysterectomy at 31, took a few years and hair back, but then still got to do my brows myself. You're beautiful and you make me feel that way.
This lady lives in Montana.
Oh, she does?
Yes, and she was waiting to surprise her.
Stop it! Oh my gosh!
Hi, Aziza. Beautiful lady.
Oh my gosh, I wasn't expecting that. Thank you for sending me that message. I just want to know, was it a surprise to see a woman bald on air when you turn on your TV screen?
When I went through it, there was not a lot known about alopecia. And so there was a stigma attached. And it was very humiliating, very, made you very insecure. But I can tell you, girl, I cannot rock it the way you can.
I can't even put into words how much meaning it brings me to know that people all across the country are reaching out and embracing me with such support.
You feel the love?
Yes, I do.
So you may be wondering, how are Aziza's parents? They are sober, still together, and have a great relationship with her.
I'm just in awe of Aziza. Number one, I think it's so brave for her to do, especially for a black woman. We have such a primal connection to our hair. You know, we always say it's your crown, go ahead.
Sure. It comes with such judgment.
And it comes with such judgment. Number one, she is spectacularly gorgeous.
Rocking
number
it.
one. She
Yeah.
really is.
She is.
And for her to have the bravery to tell the story and to see how it's affected other people, too. That you can be on TV, you can have a job and be very successful. You go, Aziza. I like her boyfriend that encouraged her. I like Kathleen, the general manager and the news director, Kelly, who encouraged her and stood by her. There's so many layers to this story, as always, David.
You're right.
Didn't you guys think that, too?
It was incredible. My eyes got watery.
Yes.
David, that was unbelievable.
Yes, Aziza, you go.
This is a story about a small chair, but it's got a big impact. The kind of chair that gives mobility to children with disabilities. Meet Jackson. He's a 4-year-old boy from Covington, Louisiana.
Look at that big smile.
He has dystonia. It's a condition that affects his muscles. And he has a developmental delay. He doesn't walk or speak.
When they offered you this wheelchair, was he mobile at all at that time?
No. Elizabeth and Brian Fabregas are Jackson's parents. They say after 8 months in that chair, Jackson has been able to sit up on his own. And now he's moving around independently.
So it gave him a more ground level view.
Yep, that's what made me happy, because it's like he's included with everything.
The parents say that the toy-like chair has been wonderful because it created a playful experience with Jackson's older brother, Brody, and has been the bridge from not walking to now using a walker.
Okay, so give us the report card. How would you grade it?
It's an A+. I mean, it's helped Jackson, become more mobile and be able to be adapting to the other things that he's going to be offered. It's helped his development.
Now, meet the man at the front of this creation, Noam Platt. He's an architect in New Orleans who heads up an organization called Make Good. They focus on assistive technology, the kinds of devices people can't find in the commercial workplace or can't afford.
Pull this out.
Platt came across the design for the chair on an Israeli website that lists open source information for developers like him.
You just called the hospitals and said, hey, I'm making this. Might you have a need for it?
Yeah, I mean, I have a previous relationship with some of these health systems through my work as an architect. And part of it is really empowering the clinicians to understand that we can go beyond what's commercially available. We can really create almost anything.
Get those bells.
Sebastian Grant. He was born premature at just 24 weeks old. He spent 10 months in the neonatal ICU.
He has gone through more in his 15 months of life than adults have gone through their whole life.
Sebastian needs a trach to breathe, and he's still being fed through a tube.
Sebastian, look! Need your little chair.
We were there with Sebastian's parents, Tamara and Shane Michael, when he got his customized chair.
This is a chair that he could be in and go around the house and actually be in control of himself a little bit.
Yeah, I'm scared for when we get to that point.
I hope your heels are ready, because he gonna be running into y'all with that little chair. Oh, that's why they put bumpers on the front.
Yes, thank God for the bumpers.
Here's a baby who spent most of his life on his back, and now he's sitting up straight. His therapist says it is a game changer.
Yay, Sebastian!
This costs how much to build in total?
I believe each of these was under $200.
To buy a wheelchair for a kid this small through an insurance company could go for how much, do you know?
$1,000 to $10,000.
The labor to build these chairs was free. Platt's organization partnered with Tulane University to find students who would volunteer their time and skills to build the chairs. 15 chairs have been made over the past year.
Oh, it was so moving.
Tulane student Alyssa Bachman is part of that team.
For me, it's very grounding. You can come in somewhere here like the Makerspace and make such a huge impact on a child with only a couple hours of effort.
The design is really simple. The base and the wheels are made out of wood. The plastic attachments are 3D printed. It's all assembled by hand. Those bright colors are intentionally childlike. And right before Sebastian got his chair, the Tulane students and Noam Platt went back to customize it.
We're putting the name tag right here.
You got your hand on the wheel. You're so smart.
So that it could hold his little ventilator and the tubes that make it possible for his 24-pound body to keep going.
And here, I want to show you this too, is that they're all signed by the people who make them, which is also
that's
really neat. And it's just that extra bit of personal touch that really connects kind of through time to the people who made this, to the people who use it.
So that chair was made with love from multiple strangers who will never meet Sebastian.
Wow. That's crazy, but definitely needed.
That says a lot, like just how everything comes together to help my son. It's overwhelming.
What would you want to say to them?
The sense of gratitude I have, they would never understand. You really mean the world to us. What you've done for him is make his life a little more easier.
Look at that.
Bravo,
Amazing.
Noam Platt and his team. David, they thought of everything, everything.
Yeah, listen, and I want everybody watching to think of tomglobal.org. That's the open source website. This should be happening everywhere in America, because Tulane was telling us that when you're that young, insurance won't pay for wheelchairs unless a kid can operate a wheelchair independently. So these little mobility trainers, you guys, help the kids build up some strength and some coordination. But for Jackson and Sebastian, they went from not being able to move on their own to now having some independence. I mean, can you imagine what that does for a family?
No, you know what? It's a reminder to me, guys, of how much we take for granted. And by that, I mean something as simple as sitting up, like we're all sitting up straight right now, that now these kids can do that.
You know, sometimes in life, the remarkable can look so unremarkable.
Awesome. Thank you. Do you have my number to send it to?
Take, for instance, that red-headed young man enjoying himself at a small social gathering in New York City. What might not seem noteworthy is in fact a huge leap forward. If you recognize 18-year-old Callum de Quevedo, it is because we first introduced you to him 11 months ago.
How are you feeling?
Good, pretty good.
Callum had just gone through what he and his family hoped would be a life-altering brain operation to tame the involuntary tics, movements, and outbursts caused by a severe case of Tourette syndrome. Doctors inserted wires into Callum's brain and a neurostimulator under his collarbone, hoping small currents of electricity would bring his worst symptoms under control. The results?
How are you since I last saw you?
I've been a lot better. I had a really good point of time where I was just, my tics were at a minimum. It was probably the best summer I've had in 4 to 5 years.
What in life has changed for you now?
I am just able to go out with my friends more. I don't get weird looks at places I go to. Even playing sports is a lot easier. I play tennis, so it's really nice to be able to hold the racket without shaking all the time. And my social life has just gotten a lot better, and I don't have as many problems or tics that take my attention away from the classroom or from reading. It's wonderful. I really can go and start doing activities and not take multiple breaks throughout it.
Mom, what's your report card? How do you see it?
I think everything is still a little bit of a work in progress.
But how much better is he?
Oh, I mean, it's just night and day from where we were a year ago.
When you say night and day better, list off for me why.
At home especially, he's more functional. He was laying in his room a lot, he would try to do everything to kind of remove himself from even our family and society, spend a lot of time kind of hiding away, trying to control the tics.
Mm-hmm.
And now, we don't see him a lot now, but we don't see him a lot because he's going out with friends.
When we first met the family, Callum would scream in the middle of the night. Tourette's syndrome drove him to hit himself in the face. His mother's desperation was so obvious.
It's really hard when you have a kid this age who's really looking forward to doing things in life. And you're sitting as a parent saying, I don't know if you can.
But now...
It seemed like before the surgery, y'all were going towards a cliff.
Yes. Yes.
I mean,
now we're backing away from that cliff. We're pretty far away from the edge of the cliff right now.
I think you're pretty far away.
I think it's easy for us to see Callum having a future. And I think when we spoke last year, that was one of the big things it was very hard for us to see how he would even be maybe independent.
Doctors don't ever promise miracles, but Callum's doctor is thrilled with how her patient is doing.
His results after deep brain stimulation have been really amongst the best that we've seen. It's not 100%, but I think the substantial benefits that he has had from the surgery were things we would not have been able to see with just regular medications.
And as a celebration of his progress, at the Tourette Association of America's recent gala, I invited Callum to the podium to do what was once unthinkable: address an audience.
Tell everybody what life is like now with the device in the brain.
So it has just improved my social life to a point where I cannot describe. It has made my life so much better, and it has really improved my quality of life, allows me to hang out with friends, but also further my education and help advocate more consistently and not have to take breaks throughout the day. And it's really a wonderful thing.
Proud of you. Proud of you.
For Callum and his family, it has been a year of enormous strides. Where there was once anguish, there is now hope.
I'm really excited for my future because I'm able to express myself in full sentences. I'm able to stay engaged in society and be part of groups and do group activities, and even just stuff by myself. I feel a lot more comfortable. I feel perfectly fine to be me.